Part 21. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 208. The two chapters are put together so that they are more coherent. The wine table was set up on the bed, and a dozen strong young men stood in a circle around the wedding bed. The bride and groom were surrounded by the middle of the bed, and the best man and bridesmaid were separated from the circle. The two wanted to touch each other several times. Going to bed to protect the bride and groom, they were all blocked back quietly. According to the custom, the table should be placed on the kong, but the Zhou family mansion did not have an earthen kong, so these people forced the table onto the bed in order to have a good time. Normally, no one would dare to stroke Zhou Mikang's beard like this, but today, no matter how they make trouble, the groom can't be annoyed, and he can't even take revenge afterwards. They are not stupid, how could they miss such a good opportunity? Among the crowd, the leaders were two tall and strong soldiers. They both looked about 25 or 6 years old, dark and strong. Seeing Chu Xia looking at them, Zhou Mikang introduced, "This is Qiao Jingjun, and this is Luo Jiaoqiang, lived in the same compound as us, and was beaten up by me. At this moment, it is understandable to beat chicken blood." Chu Xia nodded, understood. He leaned back a little, and hid behind Zhou Mikang. "There is a wrong and a dead, so don't find the wrong person." Ha ha ha, I didn't expect her to say such a sentence. After a short silence, burst into laughter. Zhou Huikang, who was stopped outside, smiled and shook his head. "I finally understand why the third brother likes the third sister-in-law." Luo Xiaoqiang didn't understand the meaning of his words, so she asked, "What do you mean? Third sister-in-law is not afraid of third brother. She has become his wife, what is there to be afraid of?" Zhou Huikang smiled and shook his head without explaining anything. But after all, he was not familiar with Zhou Huikang, and Luo Xiaoqiang couldn't force him to ask. But in my heart, I was scratching like a curious cat. Best friends can marry into such a family. Of course she was happy for her, but more, she was worried. At that time, seeing Zhou Jiping and Zhou Xiangping protecting Chu Xia so much, she was sincerely happy for Chu Xia. Now, Zhou Huikang's words aroused her worries again. On Zhou Mikang's terms, he wants to marry a caring wife. It's so easy. Chu Xia's conditions are not bad, but they are definitely not so good that Zhou Mikang must not marry her. After following Dean Su's side, she has learned more and more about the conditions for such a rich family to marry a wife. If there is no special reason, it is absolutely impossible for Chu Xia to marry into the Zhou family. The special reason for the Zhou family is that Zhou Mikang has always refused to marry a wife. In the desperate situation of looking forward to his marriage, he finally let go. How can you be picky? I'm afraid that he will go back on his word. It's true. But, after a long time, is the Zhou family still not picky about early summer? Even if they don't want to be picky, the external environment will force them to be picky. So, in this case, Zhou Mikang's attitude is very important if Chu Xia wants to live comfortably in Zhou's house. She asked about Chu Xia. "When did you meet Zhou Mikang?" As a result, the silly girl said that there was no such thing as a right eye. It was Zhou Mikang who decided to get married because he didn't want to be nagged by the boss at home anymore. The reason for choosing her is also very simple: he can give her family enough help, so that he will not feel guilty. As for choosing her forcibly, it is probably because he is too lazy to find such a suitable guilt-free target. For Chu Xia's explanation, she felt sore in her heart. If Captain Zhou married her because he really liked Chu Xia, how good it would be. Because of this, after Zhou Huikang said the third brother likes the third sister-in-law, she was so entangled in trying to figure out what exactly Zhou Mikang liked about Chu Xia. Ha ha ha. Luo Xiaoqiang's thoughts were pulled back by the laughter of the crowd, and then she couldn't stop laughing. Qiao Jingjun was sitting cross-legged on the bed, with his hands stretched out, and a glass full of wine on each knee. Opposite, Joe Mikang the ruler stared at him. As long as he spilled a drop of wine, he would smack his hand with the ruler. Which bridal chamber is this in the end? Inexplicably, the worry in Luo Xiaoqing's heart faded a little bit. If it was really just a marriage of equal value, how could she do such a thing to protect the bride? Although she didn't see it before, but thinking about it, she knew that it must be Jiao Jingjun who wanted to torment the bride in this way, but in the end, Zhou Mikang turned her back. "Third brother, my dear brother, can you spare me?" Jiao Jingjun, whose face was flushed from the laughter of the crowd, begged Zhou Mikang bitterly. Zhou Mikang brought up a bottle of white wine beside the table. "It's okay if you forgive me, but let me drink this bottle of wine in one go. It's better to be drunk than to be so embarrassing. He's not a bride, and the third brother is too mean. Why didn't he realize before that besides his bad temper, he is also so mean?" Jiao Jingjun groaned in his heart, grabbed the wine bottle, raised his neck without the slightest hesitation, and poured a bottle of high-quality wine into his stomach with a gudong gudong. The moment the wine bottle was put down, he started to shake, and then, without saying a word, Gudong fell on the bed and yelled. Zhou Mikang waved his hands in disgust. "Take it away, carry it away, is this bed he can lie on?" That's right, this bed is the new bed of the third brother and the third sister-in-law, how can I let him lie around?" Luo Zhaoqiang moved forward as he booed, with an eager look on his face. "It seems that you want to drink too." Zhou Mikang stretched out his hand and patted him on the shoulder. "Brother kindly advises you, your drinking capacity cannot be compared with that of Jingjun, so it's better not to be ashamed." "Third brother, don't you look down on people." Luo Zhaoqiang is about 185 years old, with a dark complexion, and when he grinned, his snow-white teeth are particularly conspicuous. Zhou Mikang looked at him leisurely. "What do you want to play?" Chu Xia, who was hiding behind Zhou Mikang, looked a little excited. Before, her mother-in-law Lin Yangkai gave her a vaccination, saying that the more people make trouble, the happier the couple will be. So, don't bother those who come to make trouble in the bridal chamber, and give them some sweetness. It is to follow them to complete their instructions, which can not only get a good reputation, but also have a good omen. Originally, she thought that she would suffer some crime, but it turned out there was trouble in the bridal chamber, but it was someone else who suffered. This really surprised her. "Third brother, let's make trouble in the bridal chamber." The key point is the word trouble. If you don't let trouble, what's the point? Why don't I let it go? You. Luo Zhaoqiang chuckled. "The move you just made it clear that you won't make trouble." When Jiao Jingjun came out just now, Zhou Mikang demanded that the bridal chamber must be fair, and he could not unilaterally make troubles as he wanted. If you lose, demonstrate what you want to make trouble. Jiao Jingjun probably felt that he was tall and powerful, and he was in the training period. It would not be a problem if he wanted to win Zhou Mikang, so he agreed without hesitation. The result was that Jiao Jingjun himself demonstrated what he wanted the bride to do. At this moment, Luo Zhaoqiang has learned a lot, so he uses this to motivate Zhou Mikang. "I didn't let you make trouble, I didn't let you make trouble, you can make trouble with my wife if you want. Pass me first, no matter what other people's rules are, anyway, here, you must follow my rules." Zhou Mikang's appearance confirmed Chu Xia's appearance. Luo Zhaoqiang was stunned for a long time with his mouth half open, and then he raised his thumb. "Third brother. Brother, I have convinced you, and only the brothers in our circle. No one dares to say such a thing. You say that it is spreading the word, those who know say that you are protecting the third sister-in-law, but those who don't know think that you are afraid of the third sister-in-law. Is there a difference between protecting and being afraid?" Luo Zhaoqiang didn't know what to say. With such a nonchalant attitude, he couldn't find the right words to refute, so he looked at the crowd for help. A handsome-looking man said, "Proceed to the next item, come here, Serve the apple. Apparently, what he meant was that those who only make trouble with the bride are not allowed to make trouble, then choose the traditional program, and the bride and groom will make trouble together. This time, Jo Mikang did not raise any objections. Chu Xia also cooperated and moved forward, throwing peaches and repaying plums. Jo Mikang protected her, and of course she also wanted to protect the other party's face. Shyness or something, for her from the 21st century, is it a problem? When the apple was hung up, Luo Jiaoqiang deliberately kept shaking his wrist. Unfortunately, is Jo Mikang stupid? Seeing the opportunity, he took a bite of the apple, making the other party hesitate. If it wasn't for the bad implication of not having a bridal chamber, he wouldn't be bothered to do such childish actions, and it's justified to go out with a bunch of them. Similar to this kind of unchallenging traditional project, after repeated battles and repeated defeats, everyone temporarily withdrew to a corner and gathered their heads together to discuss countermeasures. In other words, the bride and groom did not make trouble, but they were turned against. Do you still want your face? Taking advantage of this time, Luo Xiaoqiang and Zhou Huikang, who had been kept out of the circle, hurried to the bride and groom from left to right. When everyone came back, they pushed the shy Suyan to the front. Third brother, third sister-in-law, we all want to know about the love experience of the third brother and the third sister-in-law. Suyan blushed, and spoke out the result of the discussion. Obviously, this is because they couldn't find a suitable point of trouble, and they were unwilling to let the flag die down, so they decided to dig deeper into news that had selling points. Why do you recommend Suyan? If it was someone else, Jo Mikang might refuse to go back without even thinking about it, but for Suyan, who is as shy as a girl, he has to be cautious about his mood. Jo Mikang stared at Suyan helplessly. Silly boy, you have been used as a gun, do you know that? I know. Suyan was very honest. Then why do you still listen to them? Because Suyan looked around cautiously, and said with a red face, I have never been valued so much by everyone. Well, this means that one wish is made and the other is endured. Jo Mikang's eyes fell on the handsome man's face. Suchun, did you come up with this idea? Yes, Suchun admitted. As a bachelor, third brother, if you have the nerve to hurt Xiao Yan's sensitive little heart, you should keep your mouth shut. We will not force the third sister-in-law. From the first time I saw Lin Chuxia, I wanted to marry her. Jo Mikang waved his hand like chasing away flies. Okay, if you still want to, I'll accompany you out for a drink. When Jo Mikang wanted to do something, no one could stop him. Therefore, whether he wanted to or not, 3 minutes later, Jo Mikang pushed a group of people out of his new house. The only thing that comforted them was that the groom really came to the hall with them to fulfill his promise to have a drink with them. In other words, do they rarely have a drink with him? Such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Just missed it? Everyone who dared to be angry and dare not speak out could only murmur in their hearts. He definitely didn't dare to ask questions. The bridal chamber was really noisy. Looking at the empty room in a blink of an eye, Luo Xiaoqiang shook her head amusedly. Chu Xia, I suddenly feel that the reason why Captain Zhou married you is definitely not what you think. I hope. Chu Xia lazily leaned against the head of the bed. After this day, even though it wasn't too much trouble, she was also tired. Zhou Jiping, Zhou Xiangping, and Su Yan's sister Su Shuxian opened the door and walked in. Seeing Chu Xia's appearance, Su Shuxian stepped forward and dragged Luo Xiaoqiang up. Let's go. We will take you to rest, and let the third sister-in-law also come earlier rest. After thinking about it, she really didn't need to stay here any longer, so Luo Xiaoqiang squeezed Chu Xia's little hand comfortingly, but said, I'm tired too, so I won't accompany you. Chu Xia nodded, and looked at the Zhou sisters. Xiaoqiang, please take care of me. Don't worry, we will definitely take good care of her, Zhou Jiping said while pushing a few people out. When they reached the door, just happened to run into Jo Mikang, who was returning, and after a burst of giggling, the room returned to silence. These words flashed in Chusea's mind. The little heart started beating wildly uncontrollably, and her face turned red, in order to hide her embarrassment. She got out of bed quickly. I'm going to take a shower then. He ran into the bathroom like a rabbit. What to do? What to do? The water in the bathtub flowed out, and Chusea was still sitting there like a thinker. If it is a marriage that loves to the extreme. Everything that followed was a matter of course, but she and Jo Mikang obviously did not agree with this condition and asked her to be with a man she didn't love, she said with great resistance in her heart. What's more, they haven't even held hands, let alone other intimate actions, and now they have entered the final stage. Chusea shivered unconsciously. Auntie, why don't you come? Alas, if there is a big aunt, this matter can be justified and dragged over. Chusea has never been so looking forward to her aunt's report as she is now. Unfortunately, it seems that this matter is beyond human control. Touching the goosebumps on her arms, and thinking about it again, she suddenly felt so cold. I took off my clothes 3 times, 5 times, and 2 times, and soaked myself in the bathtub, and finally felt a little more comfortable. Half an hour later, she was still soaking in the bathtub in the original position. As for her thoughts, she had drifted to some outer space. Jo Mikang's mood at this time was not much calmer than that of Chusea. In the few years that he was with Yamiru, he always kept the courtesy of a gentleman. At his young age, he managed to control himself. It has to be said that he is a man with great willpower. That drunken promiscuity was his only intimate contact with a woman, but he didn't have the slightest impression of it, so even though he was 27 years old, he didn't have the slightest experience in this area. Of course, he was embarrassed to learn from others about this kind of thing, so he secretly went to the library to check the information on this topic a few days ago. Everyone has instincts. He did this, of course. He didn't want to hurt that little self so much, and be beaten. He forcibly married his wife back home. Since she entered the bathroom, his heart was beating violently. Forcibly drive away the bridal chamber troublemaker. Of course he knows what others will say about him, but he doesn't care. In this marriage, he has always been the strong side. From now on, he will do his best to protect her, no harm, no matter which way. After walking back and forth outside for a long time, he suddenly realized that there seemed to be no sound in the bathroom. After listening for a while, he hurried to knock on the bathroom door. Lin Chuxia. Lin Chuxia. He didn't get a response. After shouting a few times, Jo Mikang was in a hurry. He knew that the girl was a bit repulsive to him. In case she couldn't get out because she wanted to avoid him, she lay down in the bathtub and fell asleep. Chusea, who was lying in the bathtub and wondering, was shocked by the sudden weightlessness and came back to his senses, only to find that he was hugged naked by Jo Mikang, and the blood suddenly rushed to the top of his head. You, what are you doing? The moment he hugged Chusea, Jo Mikang also realized that she was just distracted. In fact, there is no danger, it turns out. Before he put her back, she came back to her senses. Then, looking at the beautiful and sexy breasts in his arms, his heart was in a mess. After being yelled at so angrily by Chusea, he felt a little guilty when he recovered from the chaos, but he didn't forget to continue pretending to be a big-tailed wolf. I called you for a long time and didn't respond, and when I came in, I saw you stupidly staring at the ceiling without moving. Don't scare people like this in the future. Is he still reasonable? Chusea's face was flushed with anger, but she also realized that something was wrong with her, and she realized it even more. Now is not the time to pursue. Put me down quickly, get out. Is the leader, Zhaizi, so obedient? Do not make jokes. What to put? The water is cold. The group leader Tongzi yelled outrightly, grabbed the big bath towel, wrapped the person in his arms, and walked out of the bathroom. I haven't finished washing yet, Chusea chattered anxiously. Get on the bed and wait. I'll put the water on for you, put hot water on it, and then wash. I'll wash it for you. If it happens again, I'll give you a heart attack. Chusia stared blankly at someone entering the bathroom, and after a while he yelled, I won't take a shower. I'm too tired, too sleepy, I'm going to sleep, a joke. Let him wash her? Kill her. The head of the group, Josei, entered the bathroom and watched someone pull off the quilt and wrap himself in it. Frowning unconsciously, if you don't wash it, and sleep with wet hair. Do you think you are too healthy? While talking, he returned to the bed, took the hairdryer and plugged it in, and said in a commanding tone, come over. No need. The big bag in the quilt squirmed, I fell asleep. Talking while asleep? Are you obedient or not? Come out quickly, or I'll dig you out. Knowing that the head of the group was definitely not trying to scare her, Chusia hurriedly poked her head out of the bed obediently. I can do it myself, I can use a hairdryer. Is the head of the group so easy to compromise? Do not make jokes. Come over. Chusia smiled pitifully, I won't lie to you, I can blow it myself, really. Go brush your teeth. If you don't brush your teeth at night, you will easily get calculus. Good teeth, good appetite, bad teeth, bad appetite, bad appetite, bad health. The head of the group interrupted a certain dog that suffered from Tang Seng's wordy syndrome. Come here. There was already a lot of impatience in his tone. A certain one rolled her eyes, wrapped herself in the quilt and moved to the side of the bed, grabbed the corners of the quilt firmly with her hands and sat down, and stretched her head in front of the head of the regiment. Hoo hoo hoo. The only sound in the room was the sound of the hair dryer. Chusia, who was originally full of resentment, gradually warmed up in her heart. Although he was cruel to her, everything he did was really for her own good. No matter what the reason was, since she was married to him, she should put it away. The repulsion in my heart, let's walk with him well. Thinking of this, her smile became more natural. Is this your first time blowing someone's hair? No wonder it's clumsy. Snort. Thank you. Snort. Why do you still hum me like that when I thank you? I am your husband. Understood, you mean, you are my husband, you should do anything for me, I shouldn't say thank you, right? The group leader's Haizu replaced the answer with silence. Chusia continued, didn't we just get married? I'm not used to it yet. I thank you. It's not about blowing my hair. I'm thanking you for protecting me tonight. I know, if you do that, you will be the subject of more jokes in the future. Generally speaking, big men who care about face are very concerned about such things, but you still do this, and I am very moved, so, thanks. There was a hint of a smile in the eyes of the group leader, but he still snorted arrogantly, if you dare to laugh, I will try. While speaking, he turned off the hair dryer, and stroked Chusia's hair with his hands. Okay, the hair is dry, lie back, come on, I'm going to take a shower. Chusia responded, and after the door of the guard room was closed, she quickly ran out of bed, opened the cupboard, took out a set of cotton pajamas, and put it on in twos and twos. He let out a long sigh of relief, and then his little face became bitter again. The test is still to come. There was the sound of water rushing in the bathroom. 5 minutes later, the bathroom door was pushed open, and the leader with a large towel around his waist came out, wiping his wet hair. Chusia peeked through the crevice of his hands and found that the group leader's Haizu looked very calm on the surface, but if you look closely, you will find that his facial expression is obviously a little stiff. Aha, the head of the group is also nervous. In an instant, Chusia Tongzu regained his balance, and simply sat up generously. You still have the face to scold me? Are you trying to catch a cold? First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 209. In this chapter, I coded for a full 6 hours. Between eating and not eating, Nuan was entangled. In the end, I still couldn't accept Loveless. Don't worry, dear friends, I won't wait too long. Before leaving the bathroom, Joe Mikang hesitated between the pajamas and the bath towel, then touched the pajamas, and then felt that it was embarrassing for him to be wrapped tightly in front of his wife, so he finally chose the bath towel. The moment he opened the door, he found that Chuxia was peeking at him. He didn't know which foot to step on first. It was strange. After Chuxia had finished peeking at him, he sat upright and stared directly at him and reprimanded him. The head of the group, Zhaizi, who had never been so exposed in front of a woman, instantly blushed up to the ears, and his wheat-colored skin directly turned into red bean color, embarrassing. The group leader's Zhaizi was uncomfortable, and Chuxia was even more at ease, frowning slightly and continued to reprimand, I know your body is healthier than mine, but you don't need to show off in this way, right? Isn't the pajamas in the bathroom? Why not wear it? It feels so good to train people. Refreshing, is there wood? Lie back, don't freeze, the head of the group is the head of the group, even if his face is already burned like it is about to catch fire, he still can't forget to pretend to be a wolf with a big tail. I'm wearing pajamas now, it's not cold. Chuxia triumphantly tugged at the sleeves of the cotton pajamas, do you think me and you are so stupid? Really, the head of the group, Tongzi, narrowed his eyes dangerously, and walked to the bed in 2 or 3 steps, and Chuxia was so frightened that he gave a scream. Quickly retracted into the bed, smiling shyly. It's a bit cold, it's better to cover it with a quilt. Hey, you should also dry your hair, don't catch a cold, hey. Seeing her like this, the uneasiness in Joe Mikang's heart dissipated without a trace, and then he despised himself a little. In front of his daughter-in-law, what is there to be embarrassed about? He must have been kicked in the head by a donkey just now. My hair is short, so I don't need to blow it. Joe Mikang pulled his hair with his big hands. Taking advantage of the opportunity and going to bed, Chuxia was so frightened that she quickly shrank back into the quilt, leaving only her small head outside, and smiled silly, I'm sleepy, go to bed first, you can sleep after your hair is dry. After speaking, he closed his eyes tightly, not daring to breathe out. It's a pity, the 2 rows of small fans that keep vibrating. Betrayed her. Okay, stop pretending, you haven't read our marriage certificate yet. Joe Mikang said as he opened the drawer beside the bed, took out the marriage certificate and poked Chuxia. Hey, let me show you. Knowing that it was useless to pretend to be stupid, Chuxia reluctantly opened her eyes. Yawn, I was woken up by you when I was about to fall asleep, it's really annoying. Really? Joe Mikang asked back. Pass the marriage certificate to Chuxia, at the same time. He untied the bath towel around his waist. Chuxia's little face turned red, but she couldn't help but glanced at it out of the corner of her eyes curiously, and then secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she was wearing underwear. The head of the group naturally had a panoramic view of her expression, the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled up, and he held her in his arms. If you want to see it, you can look at it openly, it's all yours, you don't need to be sneaky. Cough cough cough. Is this still the shy and stiff regiment leader just now? With such a big change in such a short period of time, Chuxia was so shocked that she almost choked to death with her own saliva. Joe Mikang helped her recite the words while continuing to talk nonchalantly, are you so excited? Are you too out of touch? Knowing that he was leading her, Chuxia tried hard to suppress the confusion in her heart, and stared at him, don't you just want to show off your figure? I saw it, exhibitionist. Joe Mikang reached for the marriage certificate in her hand, give it to me after reading it. Chilla, Chuxia was in a hurry, grabbed hold of it and shrank back, and the marriage certificate was torn open. If Joe Mikang hadn't let go quickly, it would have been broken in half. P.S. the marriage certificate of that era was just a piece of paper, similar in appearance to a certificate of merit. Chu Xia shivered and looked at Zhou Mikang. She thought that he would definitely scold her, but in the end, he was silent for a while, sighed slightly, and said in a gentle tone, "Chu Xia, are you so afraid of me?" "I." Chu Xia hesitated and sat up straight. "It's not that I'm afraid, it's that, I don't know how to face it." Zhou Mikang raised his eyebrows. "Huh?" Chu Xia raised her head and looked at Zhou Mikang seriously. "I have always felt that it is normal for two people who love each other to get married. And we." After a pause, seeing that the other party showed no signs of anger, he continued, "And we obviously don't have this condition. Of course, I am not wronged at all when I marry you. I can see and be moved by your protection of me, and I also believe that in time, feelings will definitely develop between us. But now, I really resist doing that thing with you. I think it should only be done by someone who loves deeply." After finishing speaking, Chu Xia subconsciously shrank her shoulders, preparing to face Zhou Mikang's storm. She was guilty of saying this. There was a little bit of coercion in this marriage at first, but the later development was fair. He agreed to all the conditions she raised, and fulfilled all of them, and she said these things now, which is a unilateral breach of the contract. If she could, she didn't want to do it. Even just now, she was doing psychological construction for herself, but when the matter came to an end, she retreated again. Those without love, in her opinion, are really, no different from animals. "You don't like me at all." Zhou Mikang's eyes clearly showed signs of injury. He is also a proud man, and being said by his little wife hit him hard. After a long silence, Chu Xia said, "I don't hate you." Zhou Mikang stared straight at her. "Your answer like this is clearly telling me that you don't hate me or like me, right?" "Do you like me?" Chu Xia asked back. Zhou Mikang nodded without thinking. "I like it." His affirmative answer made Chu Xia stunned. "I'm very sure that I like you," Zhou Mikang continued. "Originally, I always thought that I decided to marry you just because I was tired of listening to those nagging. Even, when I asked you to marry me, I said, I will give you what you want, and you will give me what I want. This is a very fair deal. However, I now know very clearly that I made a mistake, and I am not the person who can treat marriage as a transaction. If I hadn't accepted you from the bottom of my heart, I would never have wanted to marry you. So, Lin Chuxia, I am very sure, I love you. Don't have to ask me what I love about you, because even I can't figure out what attracts me to you, but my inner feelings tell me very clearly that I like you. In short, the actual situation now is that I fell in love with you, and I not only want your person, but also your heart. I can wait for you, but remember, you will only be mine in this life." Chu Xia looked at him uncertainly. "What do you mean?" "I will wait until the day you fall in love with me, but I hope it won't be too long. In early summer, I felt my eye sockets heat up, and my heart felt a little sour. My throat seemed to be blocked by something, and I couldn't make a sound at all. This is probably the feeling of being deeply moved, right?" Zhou Mikang carefully took out the marriage certificate from her hand. "I cherish it very much because it is a proof of our relationship. Originally, I thought that you cherish it as much as I do, but your action just now shows that you may be a little curious about it, but you definitely don't cherish it, and maybe it is your burden. I never do things that force a woman. When one day, you are willing to be my wife from the bottom of your heart and cherish it as much as I do, then we will become a real husband and wife. Get out of bed, put the marriage certificate back in the drawer, caress it carefully, and go back to bed." Zhou Mikang patted Chu Xia, who was staring blankly with big eyes. "Go to sleep, I am a gentleman, you can rest assured." After hesitating for a moment, he pulled back the quilt and lay down next to her. In my heart, it was far less peaceful than it appeared on the surface. He has never been stupid, the initial shyness is just because he has never faced the opposite sex like that before, and when he calms down, many things will be seen clearly. She was afraid of him, so when he walked out of the bathroom, she deliberately showed indifference and scolded him with bluff, just to force him to change into pajamas. When he approached her, she immediately revealed her true form of fright. Her anxious but stubborn appearance made him feel pity from the bottom of his heart. He knew that if he forced her, she would cry and make trouble at most, but he couldn't blame him. After all, she was already his wife. The moment the marriage certificate was torn, he came to his senses completely. If he loves, that piece of paper is sacred. If he doesn't love, it's just a piece of paper. She was already his wife, and those who wanted her could force her to want her heart, but it was absolutely impossible to force her. In an instant, his proud heart helped him make a new choice. Seeing her lying there stiff and motionless, not even daring to breathe loudly, he was so angry and funny, he simply stretched out his arms and pulled her into his arms forcefully. Chusia didn't try to hug him, she believed that he was a man of his word, and since he had already promised, he would definitely not use force. Besides, his behavior just now really moved her, and she lay there stiffly, thinking about it, and finally came to the conclusion that, in fact, she didn't dislike him at all. So at this moment, being forcibly held in his arms by him, she didn't have much resistance, she just couldn't accept it. Without the cultivation of feelings, she just proceeded to the last item at once, and it was more comfortable for her to proceed step by step, a method that. After hesitating, Chusia opened his mouth. "Jo Mikang, let's start with love." Jo Mikang nodded without thinking. "Okay. Do you know how to talk about love?" "Jo Mikang. Do you think he is a fool?" You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 210. The dancing red candles magnified the figures of the two people several times and reflected them on the wall. Chusia stared at the pile of bulging bumps on the wall, dazed in a daze. Since she was 3 years old, she has never been hugged and slept in someone's arms. Now, locked tightly in Jo Mikang's arms, feeling his hot breath, she can't fall asleep. From his stiff backward posture and slightly heavy breathing, he could not fall asleep, and wanted to chat with him for a while, but didn't know what to say, so he simply stared at the wall in a daze. Ever since she asked Jo Mikang if he knew how to talk about love, the other party has been silent. Obviously, he was protesting her doubts. Tsundere man. She didn't question him, but rather disagreed with some views on feelings in this era, so she wanted to communicate with him, and if she could make him make appropriate changes, it would be considered a profit. But judging from his attitude, she should stop doing those useless things, so she simply shut up and stopped talking, but this kind of silent getting along is so uncomfortable. Her lying body was a little stiff, and she really wanted to turn over but didn't know how to face him, so she tried to endure it. So stupid. Chusia hadn't realized what someone meant by stupid before she felt dizzy, and then she confronted the head of the group, Zhaize. The head of the group, Zhaize, frowned tightly. "If you want to turn over, what are you doing standing upright like an iron plate? I told you to give you time, so you can't believe me." Suddenly face to face at such a close distance, Chusia shrank her head back reflexively. "You can't talk well? I was not happy when I asked you if you would fall in love just now. With your bad attitude, how can I talk to you well? If you read too many messy books, you will know how to think wildly." Chusia suddenly sat up. Eyes widened angrily. "Do you know what I dislike about you the most? It's your self-assessment without asking for my opinion. When did I stop asking for your opinion? What didn't I ask for your opinion? Lay down and sleep, don't mess around. What did you ask for my opinion? Whether it's my work or our marriage. You are in charge of either? Do I have a say? Since you let me be your wife, you should treat me equally, respect me. Zhou Mikang also suddenly sat up. You want to work with Jingzhe that much? Looking at the exasperated face of the head of the group. Hearing his angry tone, the unknown fire in Chu Xia's heart dissipated immediately, and a small dimple appeared on the corner of his mouth. Can I understand that you are jealous? Why are you jealous? Why are you jealous after I married you home? Zhou Mikang stared at her resentfully. I think I'm just too spoiled by you, which made you develop a bad temper. The smile on Chu Xia's face suddenly froze. What do you mean? Chu Xia. Zhou Mikang slowed down his tone. Today is our wedding day. Don't make trouble. Chu Xia exhaled slowly, staring at Zhou Mikang seriously. I didn't quarrel with you, it was you who made me angry. What did you say? That you are too used to me, grow me a bunch of bad temper. I have a bad temper, you know it from the beginning. I also told you, I can't marry you because of it. She suddenly became a submissive wife and mother. I can't do the thing of swallowing my anger, if what you want is a wife who centers on you and cares about your words in everything. I might really be out of place. What do you mean by that? Zhou Mikang's face turned cold. You tell me these things today. Lin Chuxia, do you think it's appropriate? I can let you go because you are young. But, you are no longer a child. When you say something, you have to think about it. You can be willful about other things, but not this one. Actually, Chu Xia's small shoulders suddenly collapsed. Actually, our two personalities are not suitable. You are so stubborn, and I am not docile. It was only the first day, and we started arguing like this. From now on. Hearing her voice choked with sobs, Zhou Mikang felt an uncontrollable throbbing pain in his heart. He had already planned to give in to her and treat her well. Why did he provoke her like this again? With a heavy sigh, he gently hugged Chu Xia into his arms. I'm sorry. Actually, you have nothing to be sorry for me. It may be that my thoughts are a little extreme. Marrying you, in the eyes of everyone, I have really climbed a high branch. I should be content. Originally, I also wanted to be like that coming. However, when I found out that you married me not just because you wanted to get married, but because you liked me a little bit, what I wanted changed. I want to be with you well, I want to say what I want to say in front of you, laugh when I want to laugh, cry when I want to cry, and control my true emotions without worrying about making you angry. I hope that the one in front of you is the truest me, and the one in front of me is also the most real you. If I am happy or unhappy, I will tell you and share with you. At the same time, if you have happy and unhappy things, you should also tell me and share them with me. If there are some problems, I may not be able to help you, but as long as you have a trustworthy person who speaks out, the pressure in your heart will be less up. When one day, we think of each other, and there is only a warm feeling left in our hearts, it means that we have already carved each other into each other's guts and melted into each other's blood. What I want is such a relationship, no matter what our original reason is. Now, I want to try to see if we can become like this. However, such a relationship is definitely not possible with my own efforts. I need your cooperation and your trust, instead of scolding me like a child. Now, in front of you, I often feel terrified, because I find that often, if I say a word, you will be upset, and I don't even know where I am wrong. As for you, sometimes you obviously want to be nice to me, but you have to express your agreement in an awkward way. I'm not the roundworm in your stomach, how can I know what you think? Thinking about it later. I will be touched and I will forgive. But at the time, I was just angry. When two people are together, they always quarrel. How can their relationship get deeper and deeper? Don't say that we don't have much emotional foundation like us. Even if we have deep feelings, frequent quarrels will get weaker and weaker, okay. Speaking out all the thoughts in her heart, Chusia felt that the stone on her heart was removed at once. In fact, after she found out that Jo Mikang was so protective of her, she made up her mind to get along well with him. But she, after all, is from the 21st century, a modern woman who has certain requirements for feelings, and she is really unwilling to let her be his subordinate. Of course, this may have something to do with the tutoring she received. Although her grandparents and parents dote on her, they pay great attention to cultivating her independent ability. For example, many families take their children with them until they are 6 years old, and then assign them to small rooms. And her family let her sleep by herself when she was 3 years old. She was afraid of the dark and couldn't sleep because of crying. Of course, parents and grandparents feel distressed, but they did not change their minds because of their distress. Except for the first period of time, I will fall asleep with her in her room. In the back, they put her in their own small room and ignored her. Later, she went to middle school, and the school was only 5 minutes away from home, but her family chose to let her live in school. Since she was a child, her mother taught her that girls must have their own careers and social circles. If you put all your hopes on men, one day, you will end up regretting it. Not only did she say that, her mother also did the same. Here, her career is no worse than her father's. Of course, she is not as ambitious as her mother, but she also does not want to become a disliked parasite one day. People in this day and age are still simple. 20 years from now, it won't be what it is now. She believes in Jo Mikang's character, but after getting along for 20 years, when the relationship is as weak as water, and she is completely attached to him, he will still have affection for her. A modicum of respect? It is estimated that there was not much difference between her and Jo's nanny at that time. Just because she didn't want to lose that day, now, she had to plan ahead. How can Jo Mikang, who lives in this era, fully understand her thoughts? It was also fortunate that he had studied abroad, otherwise, after hearing her words, he would definitely think that she had a problem with her mind. After being silent for a long time, Jo Mikang nodded, "Okay, I will try my best to do what you said." In fact, after hesitating for a while, he still said, "Actually, you don't have to mind the difference in family background. None of my family would have any idea. I don't mind." Chusia had some headaches. People from a different era had some communication problems. However, I can't blame others for this. After all, people in this era think so. Just like her mother-in-law, Lin Yangqiu, who took sick leave after giving birth to her first child, Jo Zikang, but that didn't affect her status in the Jo family at all. But she really didn't want to be like her mother-in-law, raising children at home all her life. The age is different, the thinking is different, and also, not being in contact with the outside world for a long time will make people feel depressed. Of course, it refers to her personality. Family, friends, colleagues, she doesn't want to miss any of them. I didn't mean to lose my temper with you just now. I admit that I was a little jealous. You are already my wife. You know it's inappropriate to work under Jingjia, but you must pursue this matter. I'm sure uncomfortable. Chusia nodded, "I understand, I'm sorry, I was too anxious to speak just now." "You understand?" "Yes, I understand. I know it's inappropriate to say this kind of thing today, but if you don't face some things, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You have been betrayed in this regard, so you will be sensitive some. In fact, it's not necessary. Although my personality is not very good, you can rest assured in this regard. I am angry. It's not that I can't work under Jingjia, but that at that time, you didn't discuss it with me. Everything was arranged for me. All I want is respect. If you had discussed with me before making arrangements, I would have no opinion at all. I am not a fool, nor am I an unreasonable person. It is indeed better to be by Director Song's side than by Jingzhe's side, I know this very well, and Director Song also sincerely taught me, I understand. You must have had good things to say to her. In short, I understand everything you have done for me. I've seen it all, I just want you to change your way so that I can truly feel how much you care about me. Why do you have so many wonderful ideas in your little head? Zhou Mikang looked at Chu Xiaoru searchingly. How old are you? How can you speak clearly about such things? I'm called high emotional intelligence, do you understand? Chu Xiaoru raised her eyebrows proudly. It's natural, it's natural. There's no way, you can't learn it. Seeing her little stinky fart, Zhou Mikang's heart immediately softened to water, his arms around her tightened unconsciously, and his voice softened. Okay, listen to you, I will deal with you in the future about feelings. Just listen to you, let's talk. How do you talk about love? Chu Xia looked surprised. Are you willing to listen to me? You said it all, you are born with high emotional intelligence, can I not listen to you? Hey, Chu Xia said with a happy smile for a while. My requirements are not high, except for allowing me to pamper and respect me, there is nothing left. Isn't that high? In order not to let this little one mess up again. Also in order to enjoy his own benefits earlier, the head of the group, Tongzi, was not ashamed to ask, can you tell me in detail what I am going to do? Let me think about it. Chu Xia nodded her head and thought about it for a while. Cai said, write me a letter once a week, and you decide what to write. Then, every time you come to your house to pick me up, you can't park your car in the hospital, you have to park farther away. When I have gained a certain strength in medical skills and been recognized, you can pick me up in a fair manner up. I didn't do this just for myself. The Zhou family's family background is here. I also know that a big family like yours usually marry a daughter-in-law who is well matched. You are a special case. The main reason why grandparents, in-laws, and relatives agreed to it is because they don't want you to be single all the time. However, afterward, when others compare with each other, they will definitely feel uncomfortable. Well, I've always got to have something to offer, right? There is nothing else we can do. It is still possible to support ourselves. Therefore, making myself a qualified doctor is the goal I am striving for. Hey, look at me explaining so much to take care of your emotions. If I don't explain, do you think I feel ashamed to marry you again? Don't deny it, the look on your face just now told me that you are not happy if I don't let you go to the hospital to pick me up in an open manner. A trace of unnaturalness flashed across Zhou Mikang's face. Just now, he was indeed a little unhappy. Even though he was married, he was not allowed to show up, and he was not taken seriously. However, today he also really understood that his little wife said before that becoming a qualified doctor was not just for fun. When she told him not to pick her up and she had to rely on her own ability to be recognized, he thought she was just trying to stop him and not let him appear on stage, but now it seems that he really wronged her. He admitted that originally, although he promised to let her work after marriage, his plan was to help her transfer to an easy job, and after the baby was born, he would simply give her sick leave and let her be like a mother. Just stay at home. Now it seems that he really doesn't know her well enough. However, after thinking about it, I feel that I am really contradictory. Isn't the reason why I like her is that she is different? As a result, after marrying her home, he wanted to treat her like any other woman. She was right, he did not respect her enough. If she also becomes a woman who only wants to enjoy herself, will he still like her? His mood is really contradictory, he is happy for her self-reliance and self-improvement, but also feels sorry for her self-reliance and self-improvement. Although he is not a doctor, he knows that to become a qualified doctor requires a lot of effort, which is definitely more difficult than other professions. Much more. Can you tell me why you don't want to go to the art troupe? He was both puzzled and happy about her rejection of the art troupe. He didn't understand why she didn't like the work of the art troupe so much. After all, with her appearance, she had a bright future in the art troupe. However, he didn't like letting her show her face like that. Therefore, when his mother was thinking about getting her to the art troupe, he actually disapproved in his heart. It's just that. After thinking about it, it seems that going to the art troupe is the best choice. They did not stop. However, she stuck with the performance. It confuses many people. Originally, he hadn't asked her all this time, but now he couldn't bear it anymore. I don't like that kind of life. I prefer a career that can really help others and make my parents proud of me. Unable to tell the truth, Josei had no choice but to answer like this. Do you know the hardships of studying medicine? Of course, Josei nodded earnestly. Not only is it hard, but you also have to have enough courage. Doctors have to face many bloody scenes, and that is definitely not a job for a coward. Little ghost, it seems that marrying you is the most correct thing I did. You really surprised me more and more. It's getting late. Go to bed, don't worry. I promise you, absolutely will do. In the last sentence, he made a pun, and Josei's face turned slightly red. After that, she obediently lay back on the bed, waiting for his arms to come over. He raised his head cooperatively and let him wrap himself in his arms. Or because it was opened. This time, Josei quickly fell asleep. But it's hard to hold his captain's tube. After all, he is at a young age, and he has never been so intimate with a woman. Now, he can see, smell, move, and eat when he is in his arms. Dead. The fire in his heart was getting hotter and hotter. He wanted to take a cold shower, but he was afraid of waking her up, so he had to lean back and stand still, while secretly smiling bitterly in his heart. This is how the night is spent, and I will definitely laugh my teeth out. However, he doesn't regret his decision. If she rejects him because of the momentary pleasure, it is really not worth the loss. She is so different. The more he understands her, the more pleasantly surprised he will be. Even, the resentment towards Yamiru over the years has completely faded away. When meeting relatives in the hall in the afternoon, many of them said sour words. The implication was that he didn't even read what they introduced to him, thinking that he was looking for someone with high qualifications, but in the end, it was just in a rural area, nothing more than growing thinner and a little weaker. Yes, those people didn't recognize Josei's beauty at all, only her thinness. He was happy on the wedding day, and of course he didn't want to argue with anyone. Looking back now, he felt that Josei's approach was the most correct. Buddha fights for a stick of incense, and people fight for breath. With Josei's character, if she is allowed to live under the doubts of others, she will definitely not be happy. Then, when she has a skill, and, relying entirely on her own ability, after gaining everyone's approval, the doubts will automatically dissipate. In that way, Grandma can accept her very quickly. In fact, one of the fundamental reasons why Grandma never forgets Yamiru is that she has always been top-notch like a boy, and Grandma likes girls who are self-motivated. My mother raised the four of them, but in the eyes of Grandma, she is not an outstanding woman. On the contrary, what Grandma really likes more is the third aunt. Among several daughters-in-law, the one who works the hardest. Of course, the main reason is related to the third uncle's personality. The third uncle is very peaceful, and he doesn't have the consciousness to strive for advancement in his work. Among the three brothers of the Joe family, the third uncle is the worst developed. And the third aunt is born with such a strong temper. In order to get by with face, she can't rely on the third uncle, of course she has to rely on herself. Thinking wildly, Joe Mikang's mood finally calmed down slowly. Then, he didn't know what time he fell asleep. Anyway, when he regained consciousness again, it was already 5:30 in the morning. Since joining the army, he has always insisted on getting up at 5:30 in the morning. No matter how late he sleeps at night, he always wakes up at this time. Glancing at the sweet girl sleeping in his arms, his heart immediately became warm and swollen. Of course, a certain part swelled even more. He moved his body back quietly, and moved back again, for fear of waking up the charming girl in her arms. Her eyelashes are so long, thick like a row of small fans, trembling slightly with her breath, making his heart tremble. Her small face is so tender that water can be squeezed out. I really want to touch it. A big Banlan tiger was squatting opposite her, staring at her with long eyes. She could even feel its fiery breath. She didn't dare to move, for fear of becoming a delicacy in the other's mouth, and then, suddenly, the tiger stood. Get up, shake your body, and move over step by step. She wanted to escape, but I couldn't move at all and wanted to shout. Throat as if blocked by a. The head of the group, Josei, who was about to put a kiss on her forehead, was taken aback by her sudden opening of her eyes, and felt like being caught doing something bad, blushing unconsciously. Nana explained, I want to pull out my arm, but I'm afraid I'll wake you up. The moment he opened his eyes, seeing a face so close, Chuxia was indeed taken aback. But after that, she was thankful for escaping from the tiger's mouth, and finally understood why she had such a dream. You were staring at me just now. Cough. The head of the group, Tongzi, coughed subconsciously without saying a word. Of course, Chuxia understood that he was admitting in disguise, and was so angry that he punched him on the arm. Do you know what dream I had just now? I was stared at by a tiger, was almost eaten. A moment of doubt, he couldn't laugh or cry, dare to love. She means he is a tiger? Chuxia glared at him. From now on, don't stare at people like this. It's too scary. If I didn't think about it, I would be eaten by a tiger. Does being eaten in a dream have any effect? Of course, the group leader's Heisa would not ask such a question. Just smiled at her. Okay. It is indeed not good to wake up too late when you think of yourself as the bride. Chuxia also sat up and yawned. He got out of bed with his clothes in his arms. The group leader's Heisa frowned. What are you doing? I'm going to the bathroom to get dressed, Chuxia said and glanced back at him. Don't scold me, I'm doing it for your own good. Can you bear it if I change clothes in front of you? Take a look at a certain part. Subconsciously glanced at a certain part of himself, the head of the group, Heisa's face turned red, and then picked up his clothes to block in front, and rushed to Chuxia's side in 2 or 3 steps. I'm going to the bathroom to change. You don't have to get up, go to sleep for a while, I will wake you up later. Chuxia curled her lips and changed into her clothes. The old lady of the Zhou family didn't want to see her yet. She was already up anyway, so she shouldn't make her unhappy anymore. Alas, it's a pity that she can't see her parents until the 3rd day, otherwise, how good would it be if she went directly to the ancestral house to accompany her parents? On the other side of the ancestral house, Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe had also woken up. The couple didn't fall asleep all night, and they couldn't tell what mood they were in. Anyway, they just couldn't sleep. As soon as the sky was bright, the couple got up together. After putting on his clothes, he was a little flustered and didn't know what to do. Everyone hasn't gotten up yet, the nanny staying here is cooking in the kitchen. When she sees the two of them going downstairs, she hurriedly greets them, Sir and wife, are you up? Don't, Zhao Yulan waved her hands in panic. What kind of husband and wife are we? You look similar to us. Otherwise, you can call us by our names. My name is Zhao Yulan, and his name is Lin Baohe. How about, you call us Lao Zhao, Lao Lin? Sir, madam, how dare I shout that? The nanny smiled and shook her head. I will stay here in the ancestral house from now on, and when the 3rd young lady lives here in the future, I will take care of her. Zhao Yulan was taken aback for a moment, then hurriedly said, "She can take care of herself, so why bother you?" "Madam, you are welcome. It is my honor to take care of the third young lady." Lin Baohe frowned. "It's not the daughter-in-law of the landlord's family, how can it be called the third young lady?" The nanny hurriedly said, "Sir, other families also shouted the same way." Lin Baohe shook his head, "I didn't hear such a shout when I went to Joe's house. It's in the official residence, everyone will pay attention to it. In fact, some people don't call it that way in front of guests, but they always call it that way in private," the nanny continued to explain. Lin Baohe frowned even tighter. "What year is it? Why are you still doing this?" This nanny doesn't know what to say. She can say, "In fact, these people used to be the servants of these people, but because of the times, they had to use other identities to cover up. It wasn't the master who didn't let them go, but they are not willing to go at all, or in the eyes of outsiders, they think they are too slavish. In fact, the education they have received from birth is that they must be loyal to the master's family, and, in the master's house, they are definitely more powerful than themselves. They went out well. Of course, there are also some who have bad masters and would like to let them out. Like the Zhou family, how could they be willing to leave? The old man wanted to release them all back then, but everyone knelt and pleaded for each other, so they were changed to different identities. To them, they continued to stay at Zhou's house to serve them. Being able to stay in the Lord's house is the most proud thing. Certainly. This kind of thing cannot be said to this in-law's wife and in-law's master. If the old lady had not confessed and asked her to tell the two of them, she would not have dared to say that just now. Of course, she also understands the reason why the old lady asked her to tell the master and wife-in-law. The wife doesn't like the third young lady, so she just wants to use this method to make the master and wife-in-law worry, right? But after staying in the Zhou family for so many years, she has never seen the third young master treat any girl so well. She absolutely believes that the old lady will change her mind soon. Therefore, she must not offend the master and wife in front of her. Seeing her standing there smiling but not making a sound, Lin Baohe sighed and dragged Zhao Yulan outside. "Mother, you said that our Xia family is in Zhou's house. Will there be a bunch of rules?" "I'm also worried about this." Zhao Yulan also had a worried look on her face. According to what the nanny said, the Zhou family still follows the old rules, but they just don't do it on the surface. The old lady of the Zhou family doesn't like our Xia family. At this time, how can we not give Xia Li the rules? You said that although our family is poor, when did Xia ever suffer such wrongs? Could it be possible? Married to Zhou's family, is to be a little Yawan? I knew that the Zhou family had such rules. We shouldn't have agreed to let Xia marry over. Hey, the raw rice is cooked now. What can I do? Lin Baohe sighed heavily. "Yulan, I really regret it, it's all because of my incompetence. That child Xia just wanted to make us live a better life, the one who promised to marry to the Zhou family. If I knew that was the case, I would risk my life, and I couldn't let Xia marry to the Zhou family. Our baby Geta, how can I serve others?" "You don't have to worry so much. I think Xiao Zhou is very rare to our family Xia, maybe he will protect our family Xia." "Even if you keep protecting him, he is still a junior." Lin Baohe's brows not only did not loosen, but even tightened. "I really want to go and have a look now." "That's no good. I don't understand anything now. If you go like this, you've committed a big taboo. How can your natal family go to your daughter-in-law's house in 3 days? Doesn't that make them look down on our family Xia even more? What can we do?" Lin Baohe turned around anxiously. "Could it be possible to just watch our Xia suffer?" "It doesn't matter whether you are really wronged or not," the couple murmured and walked out of the yard, walking farther and farther, and when they recovered, they found that they had already walked nearly half a mile. The road-crazy Zhao Yulan was frightened and quickly grabbed Lin Baohe's arm. "Father, can you still find the way back?" We walk straight out. What can we not find? Linbao, he said while patting his wife's shoulder. Don't panic, there is me, it's not like I don't remember the way. Hey, which one is this? When they got closer, Linbao, he was also dumbfounded. The villas in this area all look similar. They couldn't see clearly when they came that night. They greeted their relatives and boarded the car early the next morning. The one who was taken away didn't go out after he came back, and he didn't pay attention when he went out just now, so he really didn't know which one was the one he lived in. Please check back in 20 minutes, Nuan made a mistake. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 212. Zhao Yulan and Linbao, he didn't know the surname of Mrs. Zhou, so when the old man drew a long tone to express his thoughts, the couple immediately raised their nervous hearts to their throats. There are so many surnames of Li, why not say a rare surname? In case the old lady's surname is Li. They really want to beat themselves to death. Then I thought about it again, the old man is so familiar with the people in this area, if he really said a rare surname, it would be easier to be exposed, because they went to someone else's house by mistake, and if they were exposed, they would be treated as cheater caught. It doesn't matter if you catch them, the point is that it will hurt your daughter. The more you think about it, the more you worry. The couple wish there was a hole in the ground and they would fall into it quickly. It's not that they never thought about running, but what if the old man called someone when they were running? If you don't know the place where you live, where can you go? Wouldn't it be more troublesome for my daughter by then? Uncle, let's go. Seeing that the old man had been meditating for a long time without saying a word, Zhao Yulan left again, but her voice was visibly trembling. Don't worry, I'll help you think about it, otherwise how can you find your relatives? The old man clapped his hands suddenly while talking. I remember, the old Zhou's daughter-in-law's surname is Xie. Fortunately, the surname is Xie. The faces of Zhao Yulan and Linbao he instantly relaxed, but the old man continued, when I opened the door, I seemed to see two people walking out of the old Zhou's house. Did you remember the relative's house wrong, last name? No, the surname is Li. Zhao Yulan said while pulling Linbao he back. Uncle, let's go out and have a look and find it, so I won't delay you. The old man interrupted her. What's the delay? I just get up in the morning to exercise. Don't worry. I'll help you think about it. Dad. A middle-aged woman in her 50s wearing a navy blue top and black trousers came out of the house, and was obviously taken aback when she saw Zhao Yulan and Linbao he who had already retreated to the door. Looking at the old man suspiciously, who are you two? We went to the wrong door. I'm sorry. Zhao Yulan quickly closed the door while she said, and pulled Linbao he to turn a corner and run back. Just now the old man said that he saw the backs of the two of them, and the only house that could see their backs from this courtyard gate was the other two houses on the same row as this house, but now, they couldn't find them no matter what they said. If the old man observes them curiously again, won't the lie be revealed? But the woman in the house looked at the closed gate, pondered for a while, and suddenly realized, Dad, these two are guests of the Zhou family, right? They all know the neighbors nearby. Since it is a new face, if you think about it, you know that there is a high probability that it is a guest of the newly married Zhou family. He. The old man smiled. Waving his hands, a very interesting couple. Then he muttered softly, I don't know where the cat is, can you find the door? Can't find the door of Zhou's house, the woman sneered. He said, I picked a girl from the countryside. It's clear that I didn't feel ashamed enough. Don't blame us Myru for looking down on him. With his stubborn temper, who can stand it? The old man squinted at her, are you still reasonable? Dad. The woman looked aggrieved. It's been so many years, and he's already married, so just forgive Myru and let her come back, okay? What's there for her to forgive? The old man said while posing, practicing every move. Knowing the old man's rules, the woman had no choice but to shut up, sighed, turned and entered the room, and the old lady sitting on the sofa shook her head. Yuxian, you are too impatient, it's only been one night, you mentioned it again, didn't you make it clear that you made your father angry? Mom, it's hard to wait for Xiaomi to get married. The woman choked up her voice, I haven't seen Mei Ying for more than 5 years, and I don't know if she is fat or thin. Hey, I know after thinking about it. I definitely can't get fat, I don't know the place outside. The old lady interrupted her with a wave of her hand, I am looking forward to Myra's return earlier than you, but you are not ignorant of your father's temper. If we really get Myra back now, he will come back immediately get her out. Mom, even if things were beautiful and wrong back then, but after more than 5 years, she was drifting outside alone to suffer and suffer. No matter how big a mistake she is, can she be forgiven? Calm down and wait for a while. If Xiaomi and that girl live happily ever after, most of your father's anger will naturally dissipate. At that time, if you beg him again, I will help persuade him. If he is not sure, he will accept it. What if they don't have a good time? The woman's expression didn't relax, that girl is from the countryside, just Xiaomi's bad temper, it would be strange if we can get along well with her. That kid, Xiaomi, doesn't gossiping much, but he has the right ideas. He looks promising. I hoped that he could be the son-in-law of the family, but it turned out, hey, the old lady continued with a sigh, if you don't live well, let Myra make up for it. Mom. The woman's eyes widened instantly, what do you mean? Myra was married once, and Xiaomi was also married once, so it's fair. That's right, the woman's eyes lit up, Xiaomi's ability to not get married for so many years shows that he has always pretended to be Myra in his heart. Originally, he might not be able to pass the hurdle of Myra being married. In this way, it will be fine, and there is no need to be surprised in human terms. Mom, you are so smart. Sure enough, Ginger is still old and spicy. It's a bit selfish to think like this, but what else can I do? This can be regarded as making up for it. Yuxian, don't blame your father for being so angry with her, besides being sorry for the Zhou family, she also hurt the family. If she hadn't insisted on going out regardless, Zhang He's level would definitely be no lower than Jingping's, and Zhongliang and Zhang Jun's level would be higher than the current level. The Ye family was originally on the same side as the Zhou family. Now, I can only be half an arm shorter than others. If your father's influence is not still there, I guess, even if we want to, we are not qualified to marry the Zhou family again. Anyway, compared to that rural girl, we are still more than 100 times stronger. Yes, that's what I said, but there are some things wrong, the old lady sighed, it can't be made up by relying on family background. We are just thinking this way now, even if Xiaomi and that rural girl will have a bad time at that time. Can we get along with Mei again? If we are together again, we can't say it, man. Sometimes we take that hurdle too seriously. Mom. The old lady waved her hand, if Myra wasn't my granddaughter, I would feel like everyone else that she is not good enough for Xiaomi. Even if Xiaomi gets divorced once, she is not good enough for him. The woman curled her lips, obviously disapproving of the old lady's words. Yuxian, you always feel that Xiaomi has a bad temper and no other woman can get along well with him, but have you ever thought about it? If he only knows how to accompany his wife and doesn't think about making progress, how can he be where he is today? If you want a man to have status, and you want a man to accompany you every day, Myra would be stupid to go out to study. You mother, how can you be stupid along with me? Mom, I was wrong. Regardless of whether she really realized that she was wrong or not, the voice of the woman called Yuxian was much more sincere. Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan strolled behind for a while. He felt that the old man should not pay attention to them, so he quietly turned over, and as a result, he just showed his face. I found the old man was standing there looking at them with a smile. The couple felt that their hearts were raised in their throats suddenly, and Zhao Yulan squeezed out an awkward smile. "Uncle, you are welcome. We meet again, haha. You guys," the old man smiled. "Still playing sloppy with me? Are you the Zhou family's in-laws? What's the shame of going to the wrong door? Besides, if you really feel ashamed, you should just throw it to me. If you delay for a while, the Zhou family will find that you have disappeared. Now, I will definitely come out to look for you. Is that embarrassing or this embarrassing?" "It's embarrassing," Zhao Yulan smiled mischievously. "It seems to be more embarrassing than that. Isn't that the end? In fact, I knew which family you belong to at a glance. I don't know anyone who lives nearby. Also, the more you cover up, the more I'm sure who you are. If ordinary relatives get lost, they will definitely not feel ashamed to inquire about the family. Only parents would think about their children so much, am I right?" Lin Bao he nodded quickly. "Uncle, you are right." The old man pointed to Pingping's house. "Go, I'll accompany you back. It just so happens that I'll take a stroll and see how the Zhou family's house has been cleaned up." Zhao Yulan hesitated. "Uncle." The old man shook his head amusedly. "I know what you're worried about. Don't worry, I'll just say, we met by chance, and I went with you to have a look." Zhao Yulan expressed gratitude. "Thank you. Uncle, thank you so much." "What are you thankful for? I also have daughters." "I understand what you're thinking. By the way, why do your daughters and Xiaomi like it?" the old man said with a chuckle. "Don't think that my old man likes to inquire about things. I also watched Xiaomi grow up. That kid has a high vision. He didn't even look at the introduction of his wife before. He was still thinking about what kind of woman he was looking for. Suddenly I'm married, old man, I'm really curious." When it comes to her daughter, Zhao Yulan is not confused, and quickly said, "Uncle, the two children are just right, and we don't know how." He the old man laughed a few times without knowing the so-called. After hesitating for a while, Lin Bao he said, "Uncle, it's not that we didn't tell you, we're telling the truth." "I believe it. I laugh because I feel that the fate is really strange. I also watched that kid grow up. I really didn't expect it, I really didn't expect it." Hearing what he said, Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe's faces turned a little ugly. What did they expect? That means their daughter is not good enough for Zhou Mikang? Thinking of this, the couple didn't bother to talk to the old man anymore, and just walked with their heads sullen. At this age, the old man couldn't understand anything, looked at the expressions of the couple, and knew that what he said just now had caused the couple to misunderstand, so he said with a smile, "You are not old, and your temperament is not young. Me, I'm not saying that your daughters are not good enough for Xiaomi, but that Xiaomi never thought that he could see girls right. In my impression, he never took the initiative to talk to girls. Unexpectedly, I am getting older, but I am capable. It seems that I will go to Zhou's house later." "Uncle, we are wrong, we are narrow-minded, sorry," the couple apologized in unison. The old man just laughed. "You think too little of me, I've already promised you. Of course I won't tell you about your getting lost, don't worry." "Thank you, uncle." During the conversation, the three of them arrived at the gate of the Zhou family's ancestral house and stared at the big sunflower at the gate. The old man sighed, his eyes full of nostalgia. Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe looked at each other, a little at a loss. Seeing the master's expression, it seemed that he hadn't been to Zhou's house for a long time, and the big flower at the door should have something to say, but I don't know whether the old man and the Zhou family are friends or foes. What if they get the wrong person? While the couple were thinking wildly, the old man had already raised his legs and entered. The nanny who came out after hearing the noise saw the old man was obviously taken aback, and then hurriedly greeted with a smile, "Hello, old man, Turning to Zhao Yulan and Lin Bao he, "Sir, madam, breakfast is ready." Mr. Ye answered the words with a smile, "Come out to exercise, and if you meet them, come over to enjoy yourself." "Xiao Lu, welcome me." The nanny hurriedly said, "Welcome, of course you are welcome, old man Ye. You are a rare visitor. If our old man knows that you are coming, he will be very happy." He the old man waved his hand. "Okay, I'm going back to eat," he said, and looked at Zhao Yulan and Lin Yu. "Go to my house to play when you have time, old man, I am in a hurry. I like guests." The couple nodded quickly, "Okay, we will definitely visit you again." Watching Mr. Ye leave, Zhao Yulan and Lin Bao he breathed a sigh of relief and entered the room. Everyone else was already up. Seeing them entering, Zhao Yushan asked in surprise, "Where did you go so early in the morning?" Zhao Yulan hurriedly said, "Go out and do some activities." Zhao Yukui just laughed, "When I come to the city, this habit has also caught up, haha." Lin Baojuan also laughed, "Yes, second brother and second sister-in-law, are you planning to become urbanites?" Zhao Yuiying glared at them, "You'll know what's on your mind when your daughters get married." "Sister, your daughter is not married yet," Zhao Yukui said. Zhao Yuiying sighed, "I'm not married, but since she got engaged, I've been worried." Zhao Yukui looked at her niece, "My Feng, did you hear that? You can tell how much your mother loves you from these words." "Yes, my mother loves me." Wang Meifeng smiled faintly, and turned her gaze to Zhao Yulan and Lin Bao he, "Second aunt and second uncle, you are tired, hurry up and sit down for a while." Zhao Yuiying frowned slightly, but said nothing. "Zhou family. MRS Zhou, MRS Zhou, MRS Zhou Jingping, MRS Zhou Gangping, MRS Zhou Shanping, and MRS Su Zhenghong sat at the main seats, accepting Chu Xia's tea offering one by one, and then handing over the red envelopes in their hands. While offering tea in Chu Xia, she was slandering her heart. It turned out that the Zhou family, which was open-minded on the surface, actually followed the ancient rituals. Thinking of having a lot of money to honor her parents someday, the corners of her lips curled up unconsciously. Don't think she is a money addict. For her, making her parents live comfortably is the most important thing. After the tea was served by the elders, she chatted with the juniors one by one, just to listen to everyone's festive words. In the end, her mind was a little buzzing. There are too many Zhou family members. After working around, I started to eat breakfast. Originally, I thought that this kind of tossing would be over now, but after breakfast, many people came to see the bride, that is, the residents of this courtyard. Including the big family who met Chu Xia's father looking for the bathroom that time. The old lady held Chu Xia's hand and didn't let go. She looked left and right, her eyes narrowed with joy. She didn't know, she thought she was looking at her granddaughter-in-law. Old Lady Zhou got goosebumps all over her body. In the end, he really couldn't see it, so he took the initiative to drag her into his room to talk about his business. There were so many people that Chu Xia couldn't tell who was who. Anyway, Zhou Mikang was sitting next to her, and she would shout whatever she asked her to. In an instant, she actually felt like a waiter. Seeing the slightly tired look on her face, Zhou Mikang felt a little distressed, so he poked her quietly, "Why don't you go back to your room and sleep for a while?" "No need." Chu Xia tried to open his eyes wide, "If I go back to sleep right now, people will definitely gossip." In fact, what she wanted to say was, "Old MRS Zhou would definitely gossip," but she saw it. This morning, MRS Zhou looked at her coldly. With picky. "It's too stupid to hit the muzzle of a gun. Xiao Chuxia, today is so beautiful." Zhu Xingkan came. Chu Xia hurriedly smiled at her, "Hello, Aunt Zhu," he said, and handed the wedding candy. Zhu Xingkan didn't go to chat with the elders of the Zhou family after receiving the candy like others did, but sat on Chu Xia's body, looked her up and down, and smiled at the corner of her mouth. Being a bride makes her even more beautiful. Thank you, Aunt Zhu, for your compliment. This child, why are you being so polite with Auntie? Zhu Zinken just laughed. It's not that you don't know, I've been looking forward to having you as my daughter-in-law for a long time. How could I have thought that in the end it would be cheaper for you, brat Xiaomi? And my idiot Jing Zhe drank a bottle of liquor by himself after the banquet yesterday, making himself drunk like a dead pig. Originally, I wanted him to come to the bridal chamber at night. As a result, he collapsed on the bed like a pile of mud, and no matter how much I screamed, he didn't wake up. Xiaomi, Xiao Zhe is also a good friend who grew up with you anyway. You are not unhappy that he didn't come to make trouble in the bridal chamber, right? Zhu Zinken. What day is it today, so you can talk about it? Lin Yangkai came over and pulled Zhu Zinken angrily. The congratulations are over, you should go home quickly. Xiaoji is so drunk, you are not at home to take care of him. What are you running out to talk about? It scares you, your daughter-in-law has already married back home, why are you bothering with me? My daughter-in-law was robbed by someone else, why don't you want me to complain? Zhu Zinken said he was holding onto the sofa so hard that he couldn't get up. Zhou Mikang's face darkened. Aunt Zhu, I have always respected you, but if you say something like this again, don't blame me for being rude. Xiaomi, how do you want to be rude? Zhu Zinken smiled lightly. Do you want to beat Auntie up, or do you want to throw Auntie out? Don't you know why I'm complaining? If that idiot Xiao Zhe didn't let you talk about brotherhood with you, it's not sure whose daughter-in-law Xiao Chuxia is today. Why did I choose this day to say it? I just want you to know, treat Xiao Chuxia better in the future. Let me tell you, even if you are married to Xiao Chuxia, if you treat her badly, the door of our Jing family will still be open for Xiao Chuxia. I'm not only speaking on behalf of myself, but also the old man and wife of our family. They also like Xiao Chuxia very much. As for Xiao Zhe's father, he must also support it. Seeing that Zhou Mikang's complexion became more and more ugly, Zhu Zinken smiled and stood up. I can see that I don't invite the Zhou family to see me anymore. Forget it, I won't bother you here anymore. What right do you have to be the master for Chu Xia? Lin Yangkai stared at her bitterly. Zhu Zinken, if there were no guests here, I would never forgive you. Speak up, I don't mind if you say loudly what are we arguing about, Zhu Zinken said while looking at crowded places. Lin Yangkai hurriedly dragged her out. Okay, you can accumulate some virtue. Chu Xia sent Zhu Zinken away. Lin Yangkai sat beside Chu Xia, thought for a while, and pulled her up again. Go to the room with mom, mom has something to ask you. Okay, Chu Xia got up obediently. Zhou Mikang said, Mom, it's none of Chu Xia's business. You know what I'm going to say to Chu Xia, so you don't care about Chu Xia. Lin Yangkai rolled his eyes at him. It's true that I married a wife and forgot my mother. Do you think I will embarrass Chu Xia? Just in case, always right. Damn boy, Lin Yangkai gave him another look, dragged Chu Xia's arm back to the room. Chu Xia, you are now part of our Zhou family. Mom, I won't beat around the bush with you. If what you say makes you where you are not happy, you can directly protest. Chu Xia nodded. Mom, tell me. You and the third child hesitated. Lin Yangkai looked at Chu Xia seriously. Tell mom, is your marriage with the third child real or just for us to see? Ah, Chu Xia was taken aback for a moment, not understanding why Lin Yangkai asked such a question. You ma went to clean up the house, but I didn't find Luo Hong. Chu Xia, I observed your face and appearance, you probably didn't consummate the house with the third child. With the temper of the third child, in order to silence us, it is possible to find a girl for a fake marriage, but no matter what, the Zhou family has already married you into the door, so he can't let him play tricks. If you have any hidden secrets, you tell your mother, and my mother promises to make the decision for you. Moreover, my mother will not blame you. With that brat's temper, you probably can't resist what he will do. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 213. In any case, Chu Xia never thought that what her mother-in-law talked to her alone would be about this matter. Even if she is a new human being from the 21st century, she couldn't stop immediately, her little face turned red instantly, and her eyes didn't know what to do. Just where to look. When my old lady wanted to teach me about this, she didn't say anything for a long time, but the mother-in-law was fine, she didn't have any foreshadowing, so she asked directly, "Do you want to be so tough?" Seeing Chu Xia's appearance, Lin Yangkai regretted that she asked too abruptly. How could such a thing be so straightforward? She was really thrown into disarray by Zhu Xingqin's stimulation. In fact, when her son and daughter-in-law arrived in the morning, she found that her daughter-in-law was still a virgin. She was originally a medical student, so with just one glance at this kind of thing, she would be able to tell the truth. Originally, she planned to take some time to talk to her daughter-in-law again, but Zhu Xingqin's nonsense just now, she couldn't bear it anymore. The face and the face of the Zhou family are unnecessary. Now that the words have been spoken, it is impossible to take them back, so she had no choice but to bite the bullet and continue. Chu Xia, Mom is a bit straightforward, you can't accept it, but, you have to understand that being a mother I hope for the stars and the moon to bring you to this home, and Mom doesn't want to be happy in vain. At this moment, Chu Xia's mood also calmed down, so she smiled at her, Mom, it's not what you think, we are not a fake marriage. Then, Lin Yangkai looked at Chu Xia suspiciously, Chu Xia, did Xiaomi tell you to lie to Mom? Don't blame Mom for not believing you. Xiaomi is at a young age, if it wasn't for a fake marriage. How could it be such a result? Chu Xia had no choice but to say, Mom, I'm only 2 months away from turning 18. The current law stipulates that the marriage age for men is 20. The girl was 18 years old, so she couldn't tell the truth, so she had to explain it from this aspect. Lin Yangkai looked Chu Xia up and down, you don't want to? Yes, Chu Xia admitted as a bachelor, I never thought of getting married so early, so I need a process of adaptation. There was some disappointment in Lin Yangkai's eyes, even mixed with a hint of anger. She tried to calm her voice, in early summer, every woman has such a day. In the past, girls got married when they were 12 or 13 years old. Chu Xia had no choice but to say, Mom, I'm sorry. Hey, Lin Yangkai sighed faintly, you are not sorry for Mom, you don't know how many people are envious of you being able to marry Xiaomi. Chu Xia understands. Lin Yangkai said this to save face for her, but the real meaning should be, you don't know. When you marry Xiaomi, you have burnt a high fragrance for several lifetimes. Seeing Chu Xia drooping her head and not speaking, Lin Yangkai told her to make her voice more gentle, Chu Xia, tell Mom about marrying the third child, are you wronged? Chu Xia hurriedly said, no wrong. Mom doesn't want to force you either. Your elder brother and sister-in-law have been silent. If you were married. Lin Yangkai sighed and continued. You may not say it publicly, but secretly? I don't know what to say. Chu Xia, you remember, this person, no matter what his status is, when it comes to some things, he will never be any less interested in watching the excitement than ordinary people. No matter what small conflicts or frictions our family has, we must resolve them internally, and we must not let outsiders see the jokes. Mom, I know. When I meet Anzu, I know what to say and what not to say. A smile appeared on Lin Yangkai's face, you child, Mom likes your beauty. Jiping and Xiangping are not as good as you in this respect, no matter what, if Mom doesn't tell you clearly, they will never understand. Why don't they understand? As daughters, of course they don't have to think about it, but as a daughter-in-law, can she? Thinking so in her heart, Chu Xia couldn't say that, Mom, the second sister and the fourth sister are much smarter than me. You don't need to pay them money, but... Lin Yangkai changed the subject. Mom hopes that one day, you can treat yourself in front of mom like they do. It turned out that this tough mother-in-law knew everything, and Chu Xia didn't look sloppy. Mom, I understand what you mean, but I need time, a time for both of us to understand each other. Well, you are a real kid, he sighed again. You may think that mom and your Auntie Zhu are fighting like children, but to be honest, mom herself thinks it's quite naive. In fact, if someone bullies mom and your Auntie Zhu meets her, she will definitely rush to protect mom. In the same way, if someone bullies her, mom will also protect her. However, as long as it is about the two of us, it is inevitable to argue in this way. We have been getting along in this way for decades, and we are used to it. In fact, mom understands that when she came to our house to talk about it, she didn't really want to snatch you away. There were so many people in the hall at that time, and she just wanted others to know that the daughter-in-law married by the Zhou family had no background. However, she was an excellent girl, and the Zhou family also liked her. She is like this, she obviously had good intentions, but she just did it to make my teeth hurt from hatred. After thinking about it, although I understood what she meant, I didn't appreciate her. Or, she feels the same way about her mother. Chu Xia, mom told you this to tell you that if Auntie Zhu treats you well in the future, just accept it calmly. Don't be unwilling to talk to her just because you care about her mother's feelings. She really likes you, and it's really for your own good. Mom also hopes that you will be here so that more people will love you. Sigh, don't you feel that what mom said before and after is a bit contradictory? Hee. Chu Xia took the initiative to hug Lin Yangkai's arm and said, Mom, you really love me. I am very happy to be your daughter-in-law, really. Lin Yangkai smiled and patted her head. Chu Xia, get used to treating this place as your own home, just like in Dalan village. Mom, I will try to integrate into this family in the shortest possible time. This answer was very honest, and the smile on Lin Yangkai's face was even wider. Looking at Chu Xia's eyes, her hair softened. Calculated, this youngest daughter-in-law is several years younger than her deceased youngest daughter. She is still a child at all, and it is difficult for her to marry into the Zhou family at such a young age. Thinking of this, she softly comforted Chu Xia, the third child is such a stubborn person. In fact, he has a good heart. A person will never change in a lifetime. Mom, I know. Chu Xia smiled wryly to herself, she seemed to have said this sentence many times. Boom boom boom. It must be the third child. Lin Yangkai shook her head and said, come in. The door opened, and it was indeed Zhou Mikang who walked in. Lin Yangkai looked at him and smiled, why, you are worried that I will trip up your wife, and you will lose your composure after such a short while. Zhou Mikang stepped forward to hold Chu Xia with his expression unchanged, but fixed his eyes on Lin Yangkai. Mom, it's time to eat, what are you still talking about? Seeing his son love his daughter-in-law so much, Lin Yangkai was both relieved and a little pantomime, raising his son so much. When did you see him treat her so well? But after thinking about it, his son was not so kind to Yamiru back then, or she could really dispel the doubts in her heart, she was stimulated by Zhu Xingkan at that time. Think about the character of your own son. Who would bother to fool her with a fake marriage? If she let her son know that she doubted him so much, she would definitely turn her face again. For a moment, Lin Yangkai regretted not telling Chu Xia not to tell her son about it. Most of the guests have already left, leaving behind a few relatives who are very close to the Zhou family. Zhenmei stepped forward to snatch Chu Xia from Zhou Mikang. Sister-in-law, I couldn't talk to you at the banquet yesterday. In other words, when you came here today, you were taken over by the second aunt again. If I don't grab it now, I will lose my share again. Take care of your third sister-in-law. Zhou Mikang glared at her, and his eyes softened significantly when he looked at Chusia. We are all a family, so you can eat whatever you want, and go up to take a nap after eating. Sister-in-law Jo Yueping couldn't help laughing. I really can't tell, the third child still loves his wife. Sister-in-law, you're so slow-witted, we've already seen it, Jo Xiangping answered with a smile. Afraid that Chusia would be embarrassed, Lin Yangkai hurriedly said, you all think carefully about what it was like when you first got married before you open your mouth. Sister-in-law, did you see that with the third sister-in-law, our status has obviously dropped by another one, Jo Xiangping said with a smile, going forward and sitting at the table with Zhengmei, pulling Chusia from left to right. Sister-in-law 3, we just started, just kidding, let you relax. Chusia smiled at her. I know. Then he greeted everyone one by one. Zhang Shui, who was sitting diagonally opposite, smiled at her. Sister-in-law 3, my grandma has been talking about it all morning, saying that brother 3 is very lucky to marry such a handsome wife. Chusia smiled at Mrs. Zhang, who had been staring at her, and laughed. Thank you, Grandma Zhang. Grandma Zhang smiled and said, Xiao Chuxia, I will go to Grandma's house to play in the future, and Grandma will cook something delicious for you. Okay, as long as Grandma doesn't think I'm annoying, I'll go, Chusia replied politely, but she was very puzzled in her heart. Zhu Xingkan was kind to her because Jing Zhe said a lot of good things about her. She could understand, why is this Grandma Zhang treating her so well? Anyway, Zhang Shui was a little bit different. She felt it. She could even feel that Zhang Shui had a faint rejection of her, but Zhang Shui obviously liked Zhou Xiangping's husband. Why did she reject her? It's a little strange, and Mrs. Zhang likes her so much, which really confuses her. No matter what they think in their hearts, the guests at the female guest table are extremely enthusiastic about Chusia, but this kind of enthusiasm makes Chusia feel like a guest. Fortunately, Jo Xiangping and Zhengmei both sincerely regarded her as their own family members, and protected her from one side to the other. For the occasional thorny inquiries, Chusia didn't need to ask them, and they blocked them back. Mother-in-law Lin Yangkai's silence is a kind of silent support. As for Mrs. Jo, no matter whether she is satisfied with Chusia in her heart, she will never allow outsiders to watch jokes at this time. Chusia's maintenance also took a state of ignorance. A slender girl suddenly started giggling. Seeing everyone looking at her, she stopped laughing, and said, I just suddenly thought that third brother hasn't taken a fancy to any girl for so many years, and he can't help but look at her at a glance. I have taken a fancy to the third sister-in-law. Is this the so-called fate? What's so funny about this? Jo Xiangping stared at her in disgust, and looked at Chusia. She's the daughter of my cousin's second grandfather's fourth uncle, and she's in the art troupe. Don't talk to her, she's crazy. The girl suppressed the smile on her face. Looking at Lin Yangkai, Auntie, I heard from Captain Wang that the third sister-in-law is very talented in art. Can you let us see it? Lin Yangkai did not give her face. Now that we are eating, what experience do we have? Auntie, what I'm talking about is after the meal, or after the meal, let's each perform a show. How about a small performance to celebrate the third brother's marriage? Not good, Jo Xiangping glared at her. Lilina, don't you just want to show that you can play the piano? Do you need to turn so many corners? Just stand up and yell a few times. Grandma. The girl called Lilina looked at Mrs. Jo. How did I offend fourth sister? She always targets me like this. You have to decide for me. If you want to play, you can play by yourself. Don't pull this or that. Mrs. Jo stared at her sternly. Lina, your third sister-in-law is the daughter-in-law of my Jo family. Don't listen to outsiders saying that I am not satisfied with your third sister-in-law. You always want to drag me into it. As long as you are careful, put it away as soon as possible. Chusia glanced at Mrs. Jo unexpectedly, but she really didn't expect it. Mrs. Jo would defend her like this, which made her know Mrs. Jo well. There have been some changes. If Mrs. Joe is just trying to protect the face of the Joe family, I'm afraid she will be ashamed. Just let Lilina act on her own, there is no need to say the latter thing at all. That is clearly a warning to those cousins who made sarcasm earlier. She is very satisfied with her newly married granddaughter-in-law. After such an episode, the atmosphere became much duller, and Chusia could tell that the cousins who came were very close to the Joe family, but most of them just wanted to get some benefits from the Joe family. For the so-called benefits, most of them have introduced girlfriends to Joe Mikang. As a result, it is naturally the result that Joe Mikang is married to her now. Because of this, those people will have an instinctive hostility towards her. Thinking about it, her appearance blocked the way for people to benefit from it. Can you not hate her? Over there, although Joe Mikang was eating with the guests, he had been paying attention to the movement here. If Joe Zikang, who was sitting next to him, hadn't been holding him tightly, he probably would have come here long ago. Although those messy cousins are close, what right do they have to question his little wife? Finally, when lunch was over, Joe Mikang walked upstairs as soon as Chusia was over. Go to sleep for a while, don't listen to them talking nonsense down here. I'll go by myself. Chusia pushed him uncomfortably, saying, just go up with her like this, what do outsiders think of them? Joe Mikang held her hand tightly and did not let go. I will take you back to your room and come down. It's not that I don't know the room, Chusia whispered, but she saw from the corner of her eyes that the two sisters-in-law and Zhengmei were muttering and laughing together. If anyone dared to say that they were not talking about her, she would walk with her head turned upside down. In the room, as expected, it had been tidied up, and the sheets on the bed had been replaced with the same type of fuchsia. Thinking of what her mother-in-law asked her, Chusia blushed unconsciously. What would mom want you to do? Unexpectedly, at this time Joe Mikang asked the question he had been hanging on, which made Chusia's face even redder. Joe Mikang looked at her with some doubts. What's the matter, are you hot? He tried to put his hand on her forehead while talking. Well, it's a little hot, but why do you seem shy? It's not like it's a fact. Being tormented by him like this, Chusia's shame dissipated, and she glared at him. Hurry up and get down. Tell me first what mom told you, or I won't go down. How did she never know that besides being domineering, the head of the group can also play tricks? It's nothing. Chusia didn't have the nerve to tell the truth, so she said provocatively, mother-in-law is just worried that I won't feel comfortable in this house, so let me treat this place as my own in Dalan village. That's all you said? Joe Mikang stared at her in disbelief. Then why do you have to bring you into the house to talk about it? Isn't it the same outside? Anyway, that's the general idea, and I've made some preparations, Chusia said while pushing him. If you don't go out again, I will turn against you. I said, do you care about my face or not? It doesn't matter if you are a man. I am a woman and a new wife. If I am misunderstood, what face will I have to stay in the Joe family in the future? Okay. I'm going down now. Joe Mikang frowned and snorted coldly. It's only been 2 minutes since I came up. What do you think this is for? It can be resolved so soon. Even if he could hear the meaning of what he said, Chusia didn't dare to pick up random words. He was a young man, so he really provoked his anger, and she was the one who suffered. Then he smiled and waved his paw at him. Those cousins of yours seem to be dissatisfied with me. I don't want them to continue guessing and spreading rumors. If they want to accuse them, there is nothing to say, right? You have a lot of reasons. Joe Mikang helped her pull back the quilt. Take off your clothes and go to sleep, and I'll ask Zayasi to wake you up in an hour. It's uncomfortable to sleep too much. Chusia hurriedly said, I'll set the alarm clock. The alarm clock rings too loudly, and it's uncomfortable to be startled even if you're asleep, Joe Mikang said while bending down. Going to untie Chusia's shoelaces, Chusia hurriedly shrank back in shock. I'll do it myself, I'll do it myself. Be honest, Zhou Mikang fixed her left foot. Take off your shoe, then reach your right foot and take off your shoe. I've only served you for the past few days, and if you want me to serve you in the future, I won't serve you at all. If you have something to say, won't you say it well? Chu Xia curled her lips, her tone not gloomy. His eyes were full of emotion. How proud this man is, although she dare not say that she fully understands it, but from what she understands, she can be sure that he will not have the patience to serve anyone like this. But now, he actually did this for her. In this era, besides her parents and grandma's family, Xiaoxian's family, the head of the group may become another person who treats her sincerely. Don't be too moved, I'm afraid you're too clumsy to untie your shoelaces. Awkwardly throwing down such a sentence, the head of the group, Tongzi, turned and walked out. When he reached the door, he urged, don't set the alarm clock. I'll ask Zhou Xiangping to wake you up later. Chu Xia smiled and waved his paw at him, understood. During this afternoon nap, she slept very solidly, the kind of solidity that put her heart back completely. When Zhou Xiangping gently pushed her awake, she was in a daze for a moment, not knowing where she was now, and when her eyes regained focus, she realized that this was the first day of her wedding. So he smiled at Zhou Xiangping in embarrassment, have all the guests left? Zhou Xiangping curled her lips, most of them left, but a very rare one came. Who is it? Could it be that you came after me too? Chu Xia asked this question purely out of words. No matter how well Zhou Xiangping treats her, after all, they are not familiar with each other, she still needs to find some polite words, be courteous with each other. Unexpectedly, Zhou Xiangping nodded, that's right, it's for you. It's Yamiru's grandfather who came here. If you don't like it, the third sister-in-law doesn't have to see him. Anyway, he is clamoring to see you, and the third brother it was blocked back. Chu Xia laughed, I don't care. Anyway, the past has nothing to do with me. Now that I'm married to Zhou Mikang, he won't want to beat me up and raise her granddaughter, right? That's not enough. After thinking about it, Zhou Xiangping sighed, actually speaking, Grandpa Ye is pretty good. Back then, she drove Yamiru away because of the foreign man who came to find Yamiru, leaving the Ye family. After so many years, he has never let Yamiru go back to the Ye family, saying that it was an explanation to the Zhou family. I guess he came here to meet the third sister-in-law, but he actually wanted to see the relationship between you and the third brother. To put it more bluntly, he wants to alleviate his guilt. If you and the third brother have a good relationship, he can let his granddaughter come back in a fair manner. Of course, or I was overthinking it, but I think my guess should be close to 10. Chu Xia accidentally glanced at Zhou Xiangping. This sister-in-law looked carefree, but in fact, she was careful. After thinking about it carefully, isn't that what she analyzed? Otherwise, how could the two families who hadn't seen each other for a few years come here in person on Zhou Mikang's wedding day? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 214. There will be one update today, 2 updates tomorrow, and 1 update at noon. Seeing that Zhou Xiangping was sitting steadily by the bed, she had no plans to go out at all, and it was difficult for Chu Xia to take her clothes and go to the bathroom to change, so she had nothing to say. Since the marriage between the Zhou family and the Ye family was cancelled, the grandfather of the Ye family has never come again over to Zhou's house. Yes, since the cancellation of the marriage, Grandpa Ye has never been to Zhou's house again. Grandpa has been to Ye's house a few times, but Grandpa Ye has always avoided seeing him. Afterwards, Grandpa stopped looking for him. Hiding away, Chu Xia pondered for a while, then suddenly said, "Excuse me." Zhou Xiangping nodded, Grandpa Ye said that unless the third brother has a good home one day, he will have no face to see Grandpa. At the same time, he also made an oath that if the Joe family encounters any difficulties, the Ye family must unconditionally help them. Grandpa Ye is a loving old man. Chu Xia's words came from the heart. The corner of Zhou Xiangping's mouth was also filled with a smile. Yes, Grandpa Ye took the initiative to come to the door today. Grandpa was very happy. He and Grandpa Ye are brothers who depend on each other for life and death. It has been uncomfortable for them to have no contact with each other. Living in the same city, and with such an identity, he can't see each other for more than 5 years. This grandfather of the Ye family is really caring. Grandpa also knows Grandpa Ye's character, so he intends to cooperate with him. By the way, the ancestral house where the third sister-in-law married is adjacent to the Ye family's ancestral house. I don't know if the third sister-in-law has noticed that there is a sunflower carved beside the gate. In fact, the same flower was also carved beside the door of the Ye family. That's because Grandpa and Grandpa Ye used to be comrades in arms of the same company, and they fought in a very different battle. They were the only two left in the whole company. The enemy wanted to catch him alive, so Grandpa and Ye ran desperately into a sunflower field. While the enemy was playing cat and mouse with them, reinforcements arrived and they were saved naturally. The ancestral house was built at that time, and the two felt that they would not be able to survive without the sunflower field, so they carved sunflowers on the door to give them a turning point. In the past, the Ye family and the Zhou family lived there. Later, the house was confiscated and they moved out. The year before last, the Ye family's house moved back first, and Grandpa Ye packed up and moved there with the whole family. Last year, our house was returned. If Grandpa Ye was not worried about embarrassment, why would Grandpa refuse to take a look at it? This time, if the third brother and the third sister-in-law hadn't gotten married, Grandpa would not have let the house be cleaned up. The relationship between the two is so good. Why was there no marriage back then? Since she opened up the chatterbox, Chu Xia simply asked her the most curious thing. In those days, because of a good relationship, getting married was more common than it is now. The Zhou family had sons and daughters, and they wanted to make a couple with the Ye family. Come on, isn't it difficult? The Ye family doesn't have a daughter. Our sister-in-law and uncle grew up together. It's not easy to separate them in a good way. The two families put their hopes of marriage on the next generation. The eldest brother and Ye Miun from the Ye family, and the third brother and Ye Mairu from the Ye family are all about the same age. But the eldest brother and Ye Miun have never gotten along, while the third brother and Ye Mairu have always gotten along well. The elders helped them settle their marriage early and sent them to study abroad. Grandpa and Grandpa Ye have always regretted sending them out, thinking that if there was no period of studying abroad, the two of them would definitely get married. I actually think that the third brother was saved by studying abroad, otherwise, with the third brother's temperament, no matter what she is like when he marries Ye Mairu, he will be responsible for her to the end. Seeing that Zhou Xiangping kept peeking at her face after speaking, Chu Xia knew that there must be a reason for the small talk, so she simply looked directly at the other party without saying a word. Zhou Xiangping was a little embarrassed by her, so she said, if it wasn't for Grandpa Ye, the third brother would have come to wake up the third sister-in-law, and he asked me to tell the third sister-in-law that no one can force the third sister-in-law to do something she doesn't like. I know that the third brother is worried that the third sister-in-law cares about Ye Mairu. In fact, the third brother treats her only because of habit and responsibility, and it is completely different from the third sister-in-law to you. It's not easy. Chu Xia laughed. Don't worry, I won't mind the matter of your third brother and Ye Mairu. After all, it happened before I met me, so I have nothing to worry about, right? If you want me to see Grandpa Ye, just say it directly. Alas, I have found out that people who look careless can really kill people when they turn corners. Hee hee. Zhou Xiangping smiled embarrassedly. I'm not worried that my third brother will scold me. Well, I voluntarily went to see Grandpa yet, don't worry. Chusia said while walking to the bathroom with her clothes in her arms. Sister-in-law 3, you are all girls, what are you embarrassed about? It's not in the bathhouse, of course I'm sorry, otherwise, you will try to take off your clothes? Jo Xiangping really didn't know what to say, but she also discovered that this third sister-in-law, although she was young, was really sensible, much better than Yamiru. It seems that in the future, she should often talk about the third sister-in-law in the old lady's ear, so that the old lady can accept the third sister-in-law as soon as possible. I really don't understand why Grandma likes Yamiru, except for her family background. Other aspects, Yamiru and the third sister-in-law is far behind. Is this Xiaomi's daughter-in-law? Seeing Chusia, who was going downstairs with Jo Xiangping, a thin and gray-haired old man stood up a little excitedly, sitting next to Mr. Zhou. Hi, Grandpa. Chusia smiled and bowed to him. It's really rude to come here to say hello now. Then he turned to say hello to old man Zhou and Zhou Jingping. Good. Good. That's great. That's great, Mr. Ye nodded repeatedly. He's a good boy at first glance. Xiaomi, Grandpa can feel at ease now. Zhou Mikang took Chusia to him without any hassle. Grandpa, I am quite content to marry Chusia. Okay, okay. It seems that there is no other way to express my excitement except for the word good. Your father and mother are a very simple couple, very attractive. When the parents were praised, Chu Xiaoxi's eyebrows and eyes frowned. Thank you, Grandpa, for the compliment. My parents will be very happy if they hear you commenting on them like this. She was smart enough not to ask how the other party knew her parents. Jo Xiangping had said earlier that the ancestral houses of Zhou Ye and his family were next to each other. Based on what she knew about her parents, it was very likely that she would not be able to find the door when she went out. She doesn't think it's embarrassing for her parents not to be able to find a way, but if they mind, if they know that everyone already knows that they got lost, the couple will definitely feel so ashamed that they will be embarrassed to see the Zhou family again. Of course, if Mr. Ye insisted on speaking out, it was beyond her control. What she could do was to control the matter from the bud. Fortunately, Mr. Ye changed the subject next. I heard that the young couple will live in the ancestral house in the future. When the time comes, will you find me, an old man, annoying? Chusia glanced at Zhou Mikang and saw that he had no intention of answering at all, so he hurriedly said, it's too late to welcome you, so how can you be bothered? Mr. Zhou chuckled at Mr. Ye. In the future, I will live with them too. I'll annoy you old man to death. Okay, I'll wait, old Master Ye laughed comfortably. Years of knots were untied, and Mr. Zhou was in a great mood. At dinner, he ate an extra bowl of rice than usual, and he said that Chusia was a great contributor to the Zhou family. Because of her, Zhou Mikang, who had not been at home for many years, now I go home frequently, and the Ye family, who has not been in contact with each other for many years, is also in contact. As for Mr. Ye, he was in the same mood as Mr. Zhou. When he returned home, he still had a happy smile on his face. Seeing his happy appearance, Mrs. Ye gave her daughter-in-law a wink. In a blink of an eye, it was the day of the third day, and it was just dawn, and Chusia couldn't fall asleep. He glanced at Zhou Mikang, who was still sleeping next to him, sat up lightly, and tiptoed to the bathroom with his clothes in his arms. The moment the bathroom door closed, Zhou Mikang opened his eyes with a helpless smile. He just didn't want her to get up so early, so he kept pretending to be asleep. Hey! This girl! She happily washed her face, brushed her teeth and changed her clothes. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her black and thick hair was shining with a healthy luster, her eyebrows were thin and black, her nose bridge was straight, her lips were bright red, and her skin was tender. I couldn't help snapping my fingers, and said to myself, it's so beautiful, I'm fascinated. The corner of the mouth of the regiment leader's Heisa standing at the door twitched uncontrollably. His little wife is really interesting. Ah, the moment he opened the door, Chu Xia took a step back in fright, and then patted his chest hard. You want to scare me to death? Then he looked at the other party with a guilty conscience. How long have you been here? I'll be here when you wake up. You. Chu Xia pointed at him angrily. You're too careless. How can you peep without saying hello? How can I peep through the door? Chu Xia snorted uncomfortably, then rolled his eyes at him. Hurry up, I want to see my parents sooner. Don't worry, I'll be fine soon. Tongzi, the group leader, looked her up and down. It's quite beautiful. No wonder I was fascinated by myself. Before Chu Xia could react, he quickly closed the door of the bathroom. Looking at Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe, who were sitting upright in the living room, the nanny couldn't help but smile secretly. These two couples went out for a walk 2 days ago, and they were obviously worried about missing their daughter and son-in-law's return. By the way, come back. How could it be returned as soon as it was polished? In fact, the couple didn't go out for a walk because they were afraid of missing their daughter and son-in-law's return home, but because their legs and feet were trembling with excitement. They couldn't take a walk at all. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 215. There were only two couples sitting in the empty hall, and Zhao Yulan became more and more nervous, so she had nothing to say. Why haven't the eldest brother and sister-in-law woke up yet? Yeah, why aren't you up yet? Lin Baohe, who was also nervous, agreed without thinking. It's only 5:30. Yeah, it's only 5:30, how can I get up? When their daughter gets married, they will definitely not be able to sleep. Well, sure. I don't know if Chu Xia has left now. Who knows? Mama Lu brought 2 glasses of milk out from the kitchen. Sir, madam, I added some honey to the milk. It will make you feel more relaxed after drinking it. Hee. Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe smiled embarrassedly. Their conversation just now was indeed too idiotic. Lu Ma said with a smile, I can understand the feelings of MRS and MRS. When my daughter got married, my wife and I were also like this. Really? Zhao Yulan regained her spirits all of a sudden. How old is your daughter? Do you have any grandchildren? My daughter is 26 this year, and she just gave birth to twins last year. Speaking of her daughter, Mama Lu looked proud, especially when it came to her little grandson. Her eyes immediately lit up. Zhao Yulan had a look of envy on her face. That's great. If only our family could have twins. It would be great if we suffer a sin and have 2. Ma'am, don't worry, the third young lady just got married. Madame Lu comforted her with a smile. That's right, my daughter is just getting married, so you're thinking of having a baby. Don't mention it in front of your daughter later. Our daughter is tender-skinned. Don't put pressure on her. Zhao Yulan glared at her husband. I'm not a fool. Hey. Lin Baohe laughed. Actually, I also hope that Xia will give us 2 grandchildren as soon as possible. It would be even better if we add 3 grandchildren at once. What do you think our Xia is? 3 at a time. Why don't you say 8 at a time? Gentlemen. Ma'am, I'm going to cook. Mama Lu tried her best to hold back her laughter and trot into the kitchen. These 2 are really interesting. Look at you, you're making people laugh at your nonsense, right? Zhao Yulan stared at Lin Baohe with anger on her face. You've completely lost our daughter's face. Yes, it's all my fault. Originally, it was the first time I came to make such a fuss. Tell me, what else can you do besides embarrassing your daughter? Hey. Lin Baohe didn't know what to say other than laughing, and he felt his face burning when he thought about the matter of not being able to find the toilet. The 2 of you didn't sleep. Did you stay downstairs all night? Zhao Yushan and Li Aiwan came down from the 2nd floor, and it was Li Aiwan who spoke. Lin Bao he quickly stood up. No, we just got up. Look at your dark circles. Li Aiwan sized up the couple. Even if you didn't guard down below, you must have not slept all night. Sister-in-law, when Kiwi gets married, you will understand what I mean. She said. Zhao Yulan herself couldn't help laughing. It's weird too. Xia was in the army, and I haven't seen him for a few months. Thinking about it, I won't be able to fall asleep. This time is good. 3 nights added up, we can't sleep. At most, I slept for 5 or 6 hours. Could that be the same thing? Don't look at me talking about you right now. When it's my turn, I might not be better than you. Li Aiwan shook her head as she spoke. Hey, Kiwi's marriage is all it's killing me. Seeing that she was 23, she refused to listen to her on a blind date, saying that if she told about Yuan Bao, people would look down on Yuan Bao, and if she didn't tell her, they would laugh at her. Originally, I thought that if she could be admitted to university, she could just find someone from outside, but in the end, she fell short by more than 10 points. She meant that she wanted to take the exam again. How old do you think this is? Even if he passed the exam next year, he would be 27 after 4 years. By then, how could he choose a child from a good family? Speaking of this, he suddenly thought that Zhou Mikangjia was 27 years old, so he smiled wryly. How many are there like son-in-law Chu Xia? Besides, Chi Hui's appearance is nothing compared to Chu Xia. Zhao Yulan interrupted her. Sister-in-law, your mood at this meeting is the same as mine before. When fate comes, you will know how anxious you will be and get bored. What if fate doesn't come? Zhao Yulan looked helpless. Sister-in-law, you have to think of the best. I was thinking of the best, but Kiwi's stubbornness made me dare not think of the best. Alas, Xia and Kiwi are the best friends. I will ask Xia to write to her sister to persuade her. If I can let Xia also pay attention to it, if I can marry a soldier, I will feel relieved. Zhao Yulan nodded. Sure, when Chu Xia comes later, let's talk to her about it sometime later. Zhao Yushan, who had been silent all this time, shook his head helplessly. Yulan, your sister-in-law was in a daze. She sat up abruptly last night, shaking me too, saying that she dreamed that Kiwi went to find Yuan Bao. You said that a living person can scare her to death. I'm really dreaming like that. Sister-in-law, you always think about Kiwi. Zhao Yulan didn't say polite words. Is it true that sister-in-law is really anxious to see that Chu Xia is getting married? Li Aiwan looked embarrassed. It's a little bit. Chuxia is more than 4 years younger than Kiwi and got married. Kiwi hasn't written a word yet. The key is that we don't let us help her. How can I? Not urgent. While the few people were talking, Zhao Yuing, Zhao Yukui, Fat Ant, Lin Baojuan and others also went downstairs one after another. For a while, the whole hall became lively. Either they were talking about Zhao Kiwi, or because there were too many people, Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe, who were shivering with tense calves, miraculously calmed down. Just after 8 o'clock, Chu Xia and Zhou Mikang arrived at the ancestral house. Chu Xia carried 2 small boxes in her hand, followed by Zhou Mikang who carried a dozen or so large and small bags, and followed by a little soldier who also carried 7 or 8 bags and boxes in his hands. Why are you carrying so many things? Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan struggled to figure out what to do when they saw the big bags and small bags that filled their hands. Catch. It seems a little too much. Why don't you answer? Seems a little indifferent, son-in-law. So entangled, Zhao Yushan remained calm at the critical moment. He took a step forward, pushed Lin Baohe together, took the bag from Zhou Mikang, and motioned for others to take the bag from the little soldier. Tisk tut, new son-in-law, are you moving half of the house to your old father-in-law and mother-in-law? The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. How could half of the Zhou family have just such a few things? If this is a family in the village, half of the family has really moved here. In the midst of everyone's chatter, Zhao Yulan quietly dragged Chu Xia back to her room, frowning tightly. Xia, tell your mother the truth, how does Captain Xiao Zhou treat you? That's good. Chu Xia looked puzzled. Mom, why do you ask that? She thought about it carefully, and after entering the door, Zhou Mikang was the first to call his parents, so there is no problem in terms of etiquette. Then Zhao Yulan opened her mouth, closed it, and opened her mouth again. Then why are you still a girl? Haha, Mom, what do you mean? I'll become a kid when I get married. Chu Xia didn't understand Zhao Yulan's meaning, and squatted on the ground laughing so hard that she couldn't get up. No, Zhao Yulan stared at her daughter speechlessly. You child, why are you so stupid? Mom didn't mean that, but... Chu Xia understood it all at once, and smiled embarrassedly. Mother, I know what you mean, don't worry, I made an agreement with him, he can't touch me until my birthday. You child. Zhao Yulan rubbed her forehead and felt a headache. What do you think about this child? How can there be such a rule? How could someone get married so early? Chu Xia pouted, then smiled and moved closer to Zhao Yulan. Mother, you have very good eyesight, but my mother-in-law can see it too. Tisk tisk, can you tell me, how did I see it? Go, don't be ashamed. Zhao Yulan pushed her daughter, and then quickly pulled her back. Xia, as someone's daughter-in-law, shrink your temper, don't be too hurtful. Mom, I know. Boom boom boom. While the couple were talking, the door was knocked. Before Zhao Yulan could answer, the door was pushed open, and a group of female relatives rushed in. Luo Xiaoxian was the first to rush to Chu Xia, and pulled her to look up and down. Hide, it's too fast, I'm helping to pack things, and I can't find you in a blink of an eye. Luan Xiaoxiang agreed, that's right, second aunt is too rude, she won't let us ask Chu Xia for sweets. How much sugar have you eaten in the past 2 days? Lin Baojuan patted her daughter on the head, it's as old as Chu Xia, you just need to be half as sensible as Chu Xia. Mother. Luan Xiaoxiang covered her head and stared at Lin Baojuan speechlessly. In the past, everyone said Chu Xia was half as sensible as me. Luo Xiaoxian teased her, Xiaoxiang, you marry a good son-in-law, so you will be sensible. Luan Xiaoxiang's face collapsed. I'm not as lucky as Xia. As she said that, she wrinkled her nose and looked at Chu Xia. Tell me before, I thought Chu Xia was not as good looking as me, but now, what do I think? Why do you think I'm not as good looking as her? This child. Zhao Yulan rubbed her head with a smile. Second aunt just looks at Xiaoxiang. Luan Xiaoxiang blinked her big eyes, with a narrow expression on her face. Better than Chu Xia. The same looks good, but... After a pause, Zhao Yulan said, Xia is still the prettiest, I am her mother, how can I not think she is the prettiest? Yulan really came out of it? Fat Aunt quietly wiped the corners of her eyes, and smiled at Li Aiwan. I have known her for so many years, this is the first time I see her smiling so happily. Li Aiwan nodded in relief. Yes, she persuaded me not to think too much, it seems that this is really the case, no matter what, I never thought that Chu Xia would have this day. You said, if you tell those at home that the real person is missing, how can they believe it? First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 216. The second watch arrives. According to the rules of the hometown, when the daughter and the son-in-law come home for the third time, the mother's family will entertain them generously. Therefore, after chatting for a while, Zhao Yulan took all the female relatives to work in the kitchen, leaving Grandma and Chu Xia in the room. Mrs. Zhao caressed her granddaughter's head with her rough hands, her eyes were full of smiles. It's only been a few days, and Xia has become a daughter-in-law, he. Grandma. Chu Xia leaned into the old lady's arms. Actually, she doesn't want to get married so early at all. Stupid child, you only talk stupid things. The old lady sighed slightly. Grandma, Grandpa, and your father and mother are not willing to let you marry so early, but, after missing Captain Xiaozhou, can you meet such a suitable man again, people, but there is no way to say it. Chu Xia curled her lips unconsciously, and the old lady poked her finger helplessly. You're married, and you still look like a child. Xia, don't disobey grandma's words. People, the more you catch up, the worse you are buying and selling. When you really need to buy, you will realize how good the previous deals were. Grandma, I didn't say he was bad. Chu Xia shook the old lady's arm coquettishly. Look at you, it seems that I don't hesitate to bully him when I see the sky. Xia, don't think grandma is wordy. You are married, of course grandma wants you to live comfortably in your in-laws' house. Captain Xiaozhou protects you, thinks of you, and exchanges hearts. You should also think of him. Usually go to see your parents-in-law and husband-in-law and grandma. You have a sweet mouth, and work harder. You have made Xiaozhou's family happy, and he has a good face in front of his family. It will hurt you more. Grandma, obey. Chu Xia saluted with a smile. I promise, I will definitely follow my grandma's teachings. The old lady just glared at her. This child. Grandma is talking about business with you. Don't take it as a joke. Grandma, I'm serious. The smirk on Chu Xia's face quickly faded away, as Grandma said, I'm married even if I'm married, so of course I have to get along well with the Zhou family. Actually, as far as I know, the Zhou family is pretty good, although my old lady doesn't want to see me. But that is a problem left over from history. No matter who is in this position now, it is difficult for her to accept it for a while. However, in front of outsiders, she is quite protective of my face. She exchanged her heart for her heart. One day, she will like me and accept me, so don't worry, Grandma. The old lady nodded with a smile. Xia is so sensible. How can Grandma worry? Squeak. The door was gently pushed open a crack. Then, the gap widened, and the head of my aunt's cousin Wang Meifeng poked in. First, she smiled at old Madame Zhao. Grandma, I want to say a few words to Chu Xia. The old lady glared at her. Is there anything you can't say in front of Grandma? Wang Meifeng cupped her hands beggingly. Grandma, I'll just take Chu Xia for a few minutes. You. Mrs. Zhao stared at Wang Meifeng with a complicated expression and sighed. Looking at Chu Xia, Grandma is waiting for you in this room. Yeah. I'll be back to accompany Grandma in a while. Chu Xia kissed the old lady on the forehead before turning and walking outside. Listen to the conversation between grandparents and grandchildren. Wang Meifeng's eyes sparkled, but she pretended not to understand anything and held Chu Xia's hand. Go to my room and talk, okay? Chu Xia nodded lightly at her. After all, it's come all the way, and it's her newlywed day. No matter how much she likes this cousin, she has to do her best to be polite. And to be honest, she is also very curious now. What does this cousin want to tell her? Is it possible that she really wants to retire from the Jiang family and marry a soldier? No, according to her heart, it shouldn't be as simple as marrying a soldier, or, she also wanted to ask herself to help her notice that a regiment leader is married. Chu Xia speculated wildly and entered the room where Wang Meifeng and Aunt Zhao Yueying lived. Sit here. Wang Meifeng pointed to the two chairs against the wall, and hurriedly made tea. Seeing her greet her like a master, Chu Xia felt a sense of irony, but if someone was willing to serve, she would enjoy it. Thinking of this, Chu Xia sat there calmly and accepted it calmly. This is the top quality Magian jasmine, and it smells good. Wang Meifeng handed the brewed tea to Chu Xia, and introduced it carefully. Chu Xia immediately felt 3 black lines drooping from her forehead. Could it be that in the eyes of this cousin, she is just an idiot who has never seen anything? But yes, according to the life experience of this deity, she is really a native who has never seen anything. Wang Meifeng treats herself with such an attitude, obviously because she feels that as a private teacher, she has more knowledge than Chu Xia. Seeing that Chu Xia looked at her silently, Wang Meifeng quickly pointed to the cup, "Take a sip and see if it suits your taste." Chu Xia looked at her lightly, "Cousin, tell me something." Wang Meifeng's face turned a little embarrassing. Obviously, she heard Chu Xia's subtext, "This is my house, do you need to show off here?" Thinking of her previous attitude towards Chu Xia, her face turned pale again. Apart from being a little thinner and weaker than herself, how could this little cousin be better than herself? Why can she marry such a family? She is going to suffer and suffer in the town for the rest of her life. Compared with Chu Xia, she suddenly felt that there was nothing rare about private teachers, and public accountants were even less rare. Although the elders of Chiang's family have done well, but the oldest official, that is, a deputy county magistrate, is still a cousin of her husband's family, so how can he be trusted? Thinking of this, she gritted her teeth cruelly, and squeezed out a flattering smile. "Xia, don't you hold grudges against your cousin?" Chu Xia smiled lightly, "What does my cousin think?" A trace of unnaturalness flashed in Wang Meifeng's eyes, and her smile froze a bit. "Cousin is an ignorant person, so Xia is just as knowledgeable as her cousin, okay. If you have something to say, is that okay?" Chu Xia would never admit it. In fact, she was extremely curious and wanted to know the result. "Chu Xia, my cousin wants to be closer to you and help you more. Can you intercede with your husband's family and arrange my sister to Ziti Primary School?" Het. Chu Xia couldn't help laughing. "Thank you cousin for your kindness, Xiaoxian is enough to help me." "No," Wang Meifeng bit her lip, "it's my cousin who wants to teach in Zizi Primary School. My cousin thinks that soldiers are the cutest. My cousin wants to do my part for them. Can you sing more fully?" Chu Xia felt like she was about to vomit, and her face became more impatient. "If that's what you're talking about, then let's stop here. I know how much I have in Joe's family. If my cousin really wants me to live a more comfortable life, then don't bother me with such inconsequential things. Chu Xia, my cousin can see that Captain Xiao Zhou actually loves you very much." Speaking of this, Wang Meifeng felt that her heart and lungs were hurting. Why didn't the heroic regiment leader have her eyes on her? Hey, if I knew it earlier, she should go to Grandma's house more at that time, maybe she would meet her, maybe she would be the one who married here today. "Sister, you have to be a little bit measured. What are you planning to do now? Don't think I'm a fool. You just want to change jobs and come here to find your in-laws again. This kind of thing, son, whoever you like to ask for help, I don't have that much leisure." After Chu Xia finished speaking, she quickly got up, took 2 steps, and then pointed back at the tea, "And let me tell you, that's not jasmine, it's longjing." Wang Meifeng hated her toothache, but she had no choice but to go forward and grab Chu Xia with a smile all over her face. "Xia, second sister won't mince words with you anymore, second sister really wants to come here to work and find a good husband's family. However, the second sister did this not because she was jealous that you married a good man Xia, but because the second sister saw disappointment in you. That strong Junja looked good, but he listened to his mother's words and didn't have any opinions at all. Originally, we were also going to get married this year, but because his mother said that his zodiac sign is unlucky to get married this year, he overturned the original plan that he had discussed with me and changed the wedding date to next year. Everyone already knows that we are going to get married this year, but suddenly it is so untied. What do people think of me? If you think Chiang Junja's zodiac sign is not suitable for getting married this year, why didn't you say so earlier? Why didn't you discuss it with my family? Is their Chiang family too bullying and disrespectful? It seems that if I leave his family, I will not be able to get married. Xia, you are the only one in our family who can support our cousin. If you don't help, then our family will really be looked down upon by the Chiang family." the way her ears listen is wrong? Or, is there something wrong with her standing posture? In short, why does she feel that in the eyes of this cousin, she is just a fool? Still a stupid fool. What does your business have to do with me? Too lazy to talk to her. Chu Xia finished speaking, broke her hand, turned and went out the door. Wang Meifeng did not expect that her cousin, who was particularly second-rate and inferior in her impression, would reject herself in this way. Speaking of herself, shouldn't she pat her chest and say that she will definitely help her vent her anger? When did this little cousin's personality change? When she regained her senses and chased after her, there was no one left. Stamping her feet bitterly, she frowned. She is not reconciled to admitting defeat like this. Everything she said about the Jiang family is true. Originally, she wanted to endure it, but now, seeing her little cousin marrying such a family, how could she have the will to endure it? Marrying into a family like the Zhou family, she dared not even think about it. After all, such a good thing doesn't happen at any time. Even if she is willing to wait, she may not be able to wait in this life. She is satisfied if she can marry an ordinary officer and let her join the army. Such a simple request is nothing to the little cousin. She rolled her eyes and went downstairs. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 217. In the kitchen. Sister Zhao Yulan, Li Aiwan, Lin Baojuan, Fat Ant, and others were busy in the kitchen turning around a lot of things that they didn't know how to use, and it took Mama Lu to teach them carefully. For example, gas stoves are simply unimaginable for them. They don't use firewood or coal, and they just turn it lightly, and it ignites. Still immortal? In the past 2 days, several people wanted to help Lu Ma cook, but they were all rejected. Therefore, although they thought it was amazing before, it was only limited to visual experience, and they didn't have much feeling. Now they want to experience it with their own hands, so they will inevitably panic. On the contrary, Luan Xiaoxiang was more courageous, seeing several elders stretching out their hands tremblingly, and then retracting them tremblingly. She really couldn't see her, so she took a step forward. Crack, it was lit. With a demonstration, things became simple, and after a while, several people could use gas stoves. Then, the range hood caused everyone to be shocked again. Just that thing, with a boom boom, it didn't choke people at all. As for microwave ovens, rice cookers, etc., in their opinion, they are really so amazing that they can't accept them. In fact, not to mention them in this age, even those who live in the city, few have seen these things. This whole set of household appliances was specially given by an old friend of the old man who was working abroad when the Zhou family's ancestral home was returned. Mr. Zhou is not a rigid person. After feeling the practicality of these things, he asked his old friend to buy a few more sets. There is an identical set at the old house, and then he gave a set to several close old friends. As for the son and daughter who don't live in the old house, he depends on the actual situation. Sent something useful. Of course, if it weren't for the great military exploits of several generations of the Zhou family, who made great contributions to the founding of New China, it would be absolutely impossible to buy so many sets and bring them back. Therefore, it is quite normal for a group of people who have never seen these things, but they don't know, so they just think it. In the city, many people have this thing. Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe once told everyone quietly that the Zhou family knew what the Lin family was like, so there was no need to hide it. Therefore, everyone did not hide their curiosity and admiration for these things in front of Mama Lu. The life of the people in this city is really different from ours. Fat Ant couldn't help but sigh. Li Aiwan answered with a smile, yes. I didn't see these things last time. Looking at it this time, I am tempted to want my daughter to marry into the city too, so how happy I am. Zhao Yukui took the opportunity to persuade her, Kiwi wants to continue her college entrance exams, don't sister-in-law stop her. When she becomes a college student, will she still worry about not being able to marry a good man? Li Aiwan has always disliked the sister-in-law. However, after Mrs. Zhang was almost killed last time, her temper has changed a lot. I went back to my mother's house more frequently, and got closer to her. The relationship between the two is naturally better than before. If Zhao Yukui said this before, Li Aiwan would definitely feel that she was talking ironically, but now, she could tell that the other party was sincerely planning for her niece, and said, I don't want to stop her, but how old is she? What if I can't pass the exam next year? Even if I do, how old will I be when I graduate? By then, how can there be a good man to marry? That's true. Zhao Yukui couldn't help sighing, if Yuan Bao is fine, Kiwi is married now, so why bother with sister-in-law? Oh, life. Li Aiwan lowered her head and chopped vegetables without saying a word. She couldn't do it if she asked her to speak well for Zhao Yuanbao. Response. Zhao Yukui thought that her own words had aroused the other party's sadness, so she quickly slapped herself twice on the mouth. Sister-in-law, I am too quick to talk, so I said it without thinking too much, don't take it to heart. I didn't take it to heart. By the way, Xiaoking's studies are not bad. Are you planning to let him go to college, or are you planning to let him join the army? Li Aiwan took the opportunity to change the subject. Zhao Yukui couldn't help but sighed again. He wants to be a soldier himself, and his father and I want to let him go to college. Alas, we are struggling now, and we don't know if we can win him in the end. Xiaoqing has always been upright. Don't try to force him to do things he can't figure out, I'm really going to make him worry to death. Don't worry, I think Xiaoqing has a good brain. Whether he is going to college or serving in the army, he is destined to be promising. Li Aiwan said this from the bottom of her heart. Even if she had a bad relationship with Zhao Yukui before, I also like Zhang Xiaoqing very much. If it's really like what my sister-in-law said, then I'd be so happy. While speaking, Zhao Yukui took a look at Zhao Yuing, the eldest sister who was washing vegetables at the station door, looking a little ugly, and asked with concern, Sister, what's wrong with you? No, I'm not uncomfortable seeing everyone looking over. Zhao Yuing quickly smiled and lowered her head to continue washing vegetables. Zhao Yulan, who was cooking, said, Eldest sister, don't hold on if you don't feel well. There are so many people, and it's not like you're too busy. You can go upstairs and talk to your mother. Zhao Yuing smiled and waved her hands, I'm fine. Just now Yukui pricked her mouth. Yukui can make a fuss. After staying for a while, seeing that everyone was chatting with each other and no longer paying attention to her, she glanced out quietly again. Fortunately, her daughter was no longer in the hall, which made her breathe a long sigh of relief. Just now, she saw her daughter coming down from the stairs and went straight to Chu Xia's son-in-law, and said something to Chu Xia's son-in-law with a look of excitement and shyness, which made her feel a little ashamed for a while. Having raised her daughter so much, of course he knows what kind of temperament she is. In the past few days, I have seen with my own eyes what kind of family Chu Xia married and what kind of life he lived. How could he be willing to stay in that small place and marry into Jiang's family? It was precisely because she could see her daughter's mind that she kept telling her daughter in the past 2 days that she should know how to keep her duty, be careful about face, and not just do whatever she wants. The words were not too obvious, but the meaning couldn't be more obvious. Every time, the daughter interrupted her impatiently, saying that if she hadn't been so useless, she wouldn't have been looked down upon by the Jiang family. In short, what the daughter meant was that she failed to marry a good husband's family, and the fault was entirely with her parents. Chu Xia was chatting happily with her grandma, when the door was knocked again, it was Wang Meifeng who came in, and upon closer inspection, one could find that her expression was slightly unnatural. "Grandma, Chu Xia." Greeting awkwardly, Wang Meifeng sat beside the old lady, grabbed her arm, and said, "Grandma, I feel aggrieved." "Xia married a good man, are you aggrieved?" The old lady, who knew her granddaughter's temperament well, didn't save her face at all. "Of course not." Wang Meifeng hurriedly sat up straight, her eyes filled with tears. "Grandma, Chu Xia married a good person, I will only be happy for her, how can I be aggrieved? I am so bad in your heart? So why don't you see your sister well?" The old lady Zhao nodded, "It's good if you really think so." "Grandma, I really think so. Auntie only has a daughter like Chu Xia. In the future, I don't have any brothers or sisters to rely on. I just want to treat her like my own sister." Chu Xia was dumbfounded. She was really convinced that she could talk nonsense with her eyes open to such a realistic level. Before she finished her stay, Wang Meifeng's arms were already in her arms. "Chu Xia, don't you believe what my sister said, she has really realized her mistakes. She used to be young and ignorant to do things that don't know the inside and outside things. At this moment, my sister really wants to make up for it." Chu Xia pulled out his arm with a dry smile, moved his body away from Wang Meifeng, and then said, "I have said everything that needs to be said, cousin. If you still want me to ask the Zhou family to be a teacher in the elementary school for children, stop it bar. You should stop worrying about Chu Xia early. If you had known that you were so unhappy with Chu Xia, you shouldn't have brought you here." Mrs. Zhao's face darkened. Just now when Wang Meifeng said that, she knew that she must have something to ask for, but unexpectedly, she was asking for such a thing. What did she think of Chu Xia? Wang Meifeng looked aggrieved. "Grandma, to be honest, if I said that Chu Xia got married so well and I could only be happy, that would be a lie, but it's not that I'm jealous of her, it's just that I'm a little envious. During this period of time, my grandma knew about the unhappiness I had with the Chiang family. They changed the wedding date as soon as they said it. If I followed their wishes without thinking about anything, would they still pay attention to me? I just can't swallow this breath. The only one who can help me now is Chu Xia. Grandma, they are all your nieces, don't you feel sorry for me? Do you really want to watch me marry into Chiang's family and suffer?" The old lady Zhao frowned and said, "If you don't want to marry into Chiang's family, you don't have to marry. No one forces you. If you are embarrassed to say so, let your second aunt tell Chiang's family that the marriage will be cancelled." "Grandma." Wang Meifeng looked pitiful. "If I cancel my marriage with the Chiang family and find someone worse than the Chiang family, wouldn't I be looked down upon by them even more?" "Okay, you don't need to talk about it." The old lady Zhao waved her hand. "Meifeng, you were also raised by your grandma. Your temperament is better than your own. Grandma knows better than you. In the end, you just watched Chu Xia get married. You are not reconciled to a good family like the Zhou family." In order to change the date of marriage, the old lady of the Chiang family went to your house specially, explained the reason to your parents and you, apologized, and you agreed. "I will talk about this again later. Are you a fool for being a grandma?" Chu Xia curled her lip. "First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind." Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 218. One more. Mrs. Zhao knew Wang Meifeng too well, she made a guess at her expression, and then stared at her coldly. "Meifeng, did you go to find Captain Xiaozhou just now?" Chu Xia looked at Wang Meifeng in surprise. "Aren't girls in this day and age very reserved?" Under the scorching gaze of Mrs. Zhao and Chu Xia, Wang Meifeng, who was already in a panic, flickered and didn't know where to look. In the end, she simply lowered her head and picked the bed sheet to play pitiful. With her performance like this, how can Chu Xia fail to understand that Mrs. Zhao has indeed guessed correctly, but isn't Zhou Mikang with Mr. Zhao and others? Isn't Captain Xiao Zhou with your grandfather? Apparently, Mrs. Zhao's doubts were the same as Chu Xia's. Wang Meifeng didn't make a sound. I'm asking you something, Mrs. Zhao's voice became serious. If you don't want me to deny you as a granddaughter in the future, just tell the truth. Wang Meifeng quickly raised her head to glance at Mrs. Zhao, and said in a voice like a mosquito, together. You, what did you say? Mrs. Zhao frowned tightly. She knew that this granddaughter had always been selfish, but she really didn't expect her to be so shameless. Wang Meifeng clenched her lower lip and said nothing for a long time. Just when Mrs. Zhao was about to lose her patience, she raised her head and stared at Mrs. Zhao with stubbornness in her eyes. I know, Grandma thinks I lost Chuxia by doing this. This face will make my brother-in-law look down on Chuxia's natal family, but if it is not forced to, I am not willing to take this step. Mrs. Zhao interrupted her, don't talk nonsense. Wang Meifeng glanced at Chuxia quickly, and said, I just told my brother-in-law. I want to come here to be a teacher and spend more time with my sister. Ask him if he can help. In front of your grandfather and the others. You. Mrs. Zhao's hands trembled angrily. By doing this, she clearly wanted to put pressure on Zhou Mikang in front of all the elders, so that he would not be able to refuse. This granddaughter really disappointed her. Then she thought again, no, if the persecution succeeds, she shouldn't be begging herself to put pressure on Chu Xia. Then he asked, Xiao Zhou refused. Wang Meifeng glanced at Chu Xia again. He murmured, he said he knew, but he didn't say anything else. I was afraid that he would ask Chu Xia for verification, so, just. The old lady Zhao stared at her coldly. You know that she won't help you if you go to Chu Xia, so you just want to use the matter of the Jiang family to soften my heart and force Chu Xia to help you. Yes, Wang Meifeng admitted without waiting for Mrs. Zhao to ask again, and simply poured beans out of the bamboo tube. I begged Chu Xia before, but she rejected me without even thinking about it. There is really no other way. I have to find my brother-in-law by myself. My aunt's family, what kind of house did they live in? But now, who doesn't envy the spacious and bright big tile-roofed house? The same is the daughter. Of course, I also hope that my parents can live like that. She sang high profile again, and so confidently. Chu Xia has black hair, she really doesn't know what to say. For your parents, Mrs. Zhao laughed angrily. It should be that you have been scratching your head like a cat since you came here to see Captain Zhou and Zhou's house, right? You were also raised by your grandma. Grandma knows all about your disposition. Don't say that Chu Xia didn't agree to you. Even if you did, I would stop her from helping you. Grandma. Wang Meifeng lay on the bed and began to cry, muttering non-stop, I want to live a good life, am I wrong? If there is a chance, who wouldn't want to live a good life? I don't understand. Luo Xiaoqing and Chu Xia are not relatives. She is willing to help. I am her cousin. Why can't I help? Even if I used to train Chu Xia all the time, it was for her own good. It's not like grandma doesn't know how ignorant she is. If I didn't feel sorry for my aunt and uncle, would I have trained her? It seems that a good person really can't be a good person. If I do it, people will bear grudges. If I always only say nice things, she will definitely help me now, woo woo woo. Boom boom boom. Hearing the knock on the door, Wang Meifeng visibly flinched. She felt that everyone was busy in the kitchen and had no time to come up, so she made up her mind to save face and beg her grandma and cousin. If someone else saw, thinking of this, she quickly kicked off her shoes, pulled off the quilt and covered her body. Grandma, Chu Xia, just say I'm sick. You still know how to lose face, Mrs. Zhao snorted, signaling Chu Xia to open the door. It was Luo Xiaoqing and Luan Xiaoxiang who came. Grandma, we're done with our work, and I'm here to accompany you. Luo Xiaoxiang ran to the old lady Zhao with a smile, saw that the quilt was bulging, and asked suspiciously, "Who is this? Is it Miss Mai Feng?" Before the old lady could answer, Luan Xiaoxiang answered first. "That's right, I didn't see her in the kitchen." Luo Xiaoxiang poked at the quilt, "Then we'll see if you're okay. What's wrong? Have you taken your medicine? Did you catch a cold?" Luan Xiaoxiang asked. And a reply came from under the quilt, slightly hoarse. "Cover the bed with more quilts and sweat." Luo Xiaoxiang said as she pulled another quilt and pressed it on top, and helped to tuck the corners of the quilt, and reminded kindly, "Sister Mai Feng, you'd better keep your head, show it a little, or you will feel uncomfortable after a while." Wang Maifeng replied in a voice like a mosquito, "It's all right." Although it was early winter, the temperature was about the same as in autumn, and it was hot as soon as a quilt was added, and in a blink of an eye, her forehead was dripping with sweat. At the moment, she only hopes that everyone will go out quickly and let her breathe. She is about to suffocate if she is covered in it like this. "I'll ask my mother to make some ginger soup. After drinking the ginger soup and covering my sweat, I'll be fine tomorrow morning." It was Luan Xiaoxiang who was so kind-hearted. Hearing the footsteps getting farther and farther away, Wang Maifeng was about to cry. She doesn't eat ginger, not at all. As for ginger soup, is it different from ginger? The point is, after drinking ginger soup and covering her under the quilt, do you want her life? Right now, she was looking forward to her grandma saying something to save her from the fire and water. As for her cousin, she didn't dare to count on her at all. It's a pity that Mrs. Zhao just wanted to teach her a lesson so that she would not dare to mess around in the future. How could she be rescued? I should wish that she would suffer more. Therefore, she is doomed to continue to enjoy under the quilt. In the following time, Luo Xiaoxiang kept chattering with Mrs. Zhao. Occasionally, Chu Xia also interjected a sentence or two. Time passed, and the clothes were wet on her body. That uncomfortable feeling made her feel uncomfortable. Wang Maifeng squirmed in the quilt from time to time. During the process of speaking, Chu Xia has been quietly paying attention to Wang Maifeng's state. Although she doesn't like her, it is still necessary to be concerned about the old lady's mood. After all, Wang Maifeng is also the granddaughter of Mrs. Zhao, and her palms and backs are full of flesh. She can understand what the old lady is thinking, that is, she wants to teach Wang Maifeng a lesson. If something really happens, how can she not feel distressed? She cannot help her, but there is no need to really torment her. Therefore, seeing the frequency of the quilt squirming more and more at this moment, she knew that Wang Maifeng would not be able to bear it anymore. Just when she was hesitating whether to help Wang Maifeng take off the quilt, Zhao Yueying came in. Taking a look at the quilt, Zhao Yueying frowned, and looked at the old lady. "Zhao, mother, Maifeng has a cold." He. The old lady laughed instead of answering. Zhao Yueying understood, hesitated for a moment, and tore off the quilt. "Wang Maifeng, hurry up and apologize to Chu Xia." "Mother." Her face was red, her hair was wet and sticky to her face, and the collar of her clothes was stained. Seeing Wang Maifeng's miserable state, Zhao Yueying froze there for a moment. At this moment, she was not sure whether her daughter had a cold. It's still installed. Glancing at her granddaughter, Mrs. Zhao's eyes also flashed unbearable, but after that, her expression returned to calm. Luo Xiaoxiang's eyes widened in surprise. "Chu Xia, should we send Sister Maifeng to the hospital? Why do I think she looks like she has a high fever?" "No need, I'll just go back to my room and lie down for a while," Wang Maifeng said as she quickly got out of bed, put on her shoes and ran outside. Immediately, she shrank back, clutching her legs, and pulled them away. Quilt, covered himself again. "What's wrong?" Zhou Mikang, who was standing at the door, touched his cheek in doubt, and looked at Chu Xia. "I look so scary?" Chu Xia asked with a smile, "Why are you here, The real thought in my heart is that it's too late for you to come here. I want to come over and chat with Grandma for a while. Zhou Mikang looked at Mrs. Zhao and explained, my grandpa and Mr. Chen are here together, and Grandpa is chatting with them. Mrs. Zhao asked, Ms. Chen is also here. Zhou Mikang nodded, they came together. I'll go down. Mrs. Zhao got out of bed and put on her shoes, and smiled at Zhou Mikang embarrassedly. I'm used to sitting on the Kong at home, but I don't feel comfortable sitting on the sofa. Zhou Mikang just laughed, when Grandma comes next time, there will definitely be a Kong. Luo Xiaoxian whispered in Chuxia's ear, I can't tell, Captain Zhou is really kind to you. Chu Xia also whispered in her ear, did you do it on purpose? What do you think? Luo Xiaoxian blinked her eyes, and glanced at the quilt quietly, with a small smug expression on her face. Chu Xia quietly gave a thumbs up. At this moment, Luan Xiaoxiang walked in cautiously with a bowl, and when she saw Zhou Mikang, she was obviously taken aback, then wrapped her chin in the quilt. She has a cold. The implication was that I came to deliver her medicine. Wang Meifeng, who was hiding in the quilt, tightly grabbed the corner of the quilt. At this moment, she would rather die than be seen by her brother-in-law. After all, she is her own daughter, no matter how angry she is, her heartache has the upper hand at the moment, so Zhao Yueying stepped forward, Xiaoxiang, please give me the bowl.